than I thought we were.
Yeah, we both got married in the same year.
Did we?
I do believe, or no, you got married the year after.
Yeah, something like that. By the way, we could go live any second. Actually, we're supposed to be live. We are live.
We're, we could go live any second. We're supposed to be live. We're live.
Well, like I mean, it was showing like the time at the top that we were live, but it was still saying offline. So I'm gonna pop the chat right now. How about that?
Pop it.
Pop it.
Pop that motherfucker.
Pop that motherfucker and get it in here so that we don't have a repeat of last time.
Hey, Greenfelds.
And Jose.
And is it Jose or is it Jose?
Jose.
Jose
reminds,
Lopez.
reminds me of that Mexican joke. It's like, what did the Mexican name his kids, right? It was Jose, Jose.
That's not even remotely funny.
Oh, you anyway.
You're a racist and a bigot.
Hello, Shar and Twisted Gizmo, who loves the show and doesn't skip the ads. This guy, amen.
With the H sound, Jose Lopez. I was right. You're a jackass and a racist, like I said all along.
Anyway, we're not going to go there.
Twisted. No, I'm joking. Will's not a racist.
Of course not. I love all races equally.
Twisted Gizmo. That's awesome.
Hello, Josh. We are effed up heads. My head's definitely effed up.
All right, you're not supposed to be reading chat. You're supposed to be reading something else there.
And I'm supposed to be putting the chat into. Let me put the chat into this
all right,
thingamajiggy here. Because last time it didn't go in. Okay. Window capture. Chat. And where's it to? Current. No. YouTube. Where are you?
Hey, Midwestern, how you doing? Sorry, I'm never going to remember your real name. I'm pretty sure you posted it a couple times.
Hunter.
Yeah, but I'm not going to remember. I'm not going to remember like to associate one with the other because there's like fucking 10 different people with using names that's not their names.
Fucking 10 different people. Anyways, we're going to start. I'll start off actually. What am I saying?
That's like I had a friend of mine. Every time he told a story, he started it with when he was talking about a friend, he'd always start the story with "butt fucking my buddy."
Yeah, butt fucking his buddy. Okay.
Right, and I used to stop him all the time. I'm like, "Really, dude? Butt fucking your buddy? Is that how you're going to kick off?" I was like, "It's only fucking first coffee break. Can you wait till lunch before you start getting into the cornhole shit?"
That reminds me of this guy I knew. And anyway, he said he got hit in the face with a branch when we were in the woods. And he said, "Oh, fuck my face." And the other guy just went on a tangent about that for like the whole time we were out there. So let's start, I guess. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the online campfire, where we tell your effed up stories. I am your host, Will Pender,
and I am your illustrious co-host, Ryan Sharp.
And you're gonna have to detail what illustrious is. Isn't that like for hair? I have lustrous hair.
I didn't say lustrous. I said illustrious.
Well, define it for me.
You literally are sitting right in front of the world's largest dictionary.
Yeah, but I got too many windows open. I want to fuck with it. Anyway, I don't care that much. All right. So we since last Tuesday was it? We did our last podcast.
Yeah. Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday. I've gotten 8 submissions since then, so we got plenty of stuff to chew through here. So let's see what we have. I'm just gonna start picking these things at random, I think. So the first one comes from Mary Still. Now let me just throw this into a Word document and put some paragraphs in it because it's...
So we had a few more people join us. Let's see. David Cobham. Good evening to you, my friend. Caramoso. Very glad that you were able to finally catch this show live. Josh, we don't even really know, to be perfectly honest. Harry Potter and Gimli. I'm 6'3" for fuck's sakes. I'm no dwarf.
Wait, did he say
Okay.
you're Gimli?
Well, I'm no fucking Harry Potter there, glasses.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, it is good. It is. Of course, everybody here where I live, nobody calls me Ryan.
Calls you Gimli, right?
Everybody calls me Chewy, right? It's a nickname a friend of mine stuck on me, Chewy Chewbacca, right?
Yeah.
And I got this cousin that lives out here. He's, you would classify him as metrosexual, right? He's very concerned about his hair and his shoes and his clothes, but he's straight as a fucking arrow. The dude loves women. Anyway,
And their clothes.
The friend who gave me the nickname. I was at his wedding, and I brought my wife, my cousin, with me, and we met this little dude. He was the head of a fucking huge, like, biker club out here, right? Like, yeah. I'm not gonna say which club, but he was just this little old dude, man. But he was just mean as fuck. This guy was from the north and part of this big fucking biker club, head of the biker club. Anyway, dude was all fucked up, and we were all standing around in a circle, and he was standing there with a scotch, and he took a sip, and he was like, "All right, guys, I gotta leave." And he looks at me, and he says, "Chewy," and he looks at my metrosexual friend and says, "Ringo," because he'd been calling him Ringo Starr all night, and walked away. And it was like the most absurd moment.
Anyway, I do have some spaces put. Oh my god, my brain is just. I can't keep saying it though. Hey, like
my mind
is just a piece of shit today. I get so goddamn diuretic. When Will, do you think there's any treasure buried in Oak Island? You know what? There has to be, because there's been so much money. There's been so much money spent trying to dig that shit up by quite a few different people that there just has to be. Like, they must have done more research than I've ever done and must be confident that there's treasure. And if they've spent that much money trying to find the treasure on Oak Island, then yeah, there's got to be treasure there. Okay, so with that said, we're going to jump into... yeah, my Ebola. Fuck, my Ebola. I also have rum. That's not going to help. But
that's not going to help nothing. Maybe take it easy on the rum. You're already kind of cross-eyed.
So I roll Gimli.
Very good.
All right. So this first story I'm going to read came in from Mary Still. Like I said, we got a bunch of these here. So yes, it is about time, Emma. I'm very glad to have my rum. Very happy to not be sick, actually. I say with a cough. But anyway, let's start this off. So this comes in from Mary Still. I have no idea what it's about yet, so you guys will journey with me through this story. Okay, first off, I want to say I'm not an expert on grammar or punctuation. That's fantastic. Neither am I. And I know my story will sound batshit crazy, but let me say I do know this truly has happened to me. Second, since this has happened over the course of my life, I do feel the paranormal has, for the most part, left me alone since I've gotten on the right track. My life, my father served in Vietnam only to come home, have me, then go to work one day, and get killed by a boiler blowing up in his face.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's a rough start. So
well, that's a yeah, I won't even get into that. Go ahead.
So over the years, my mother never remarried, and I watched as my mother got ripped off and used badly by many people. This made me a tough little girl. By 10, I had decided I would never depend on anyone, nor would I be used as my mother has been throughout my childhood. And I will say my mother did the best that she could, I'm sure. There was always some abuse by the one boyfriend she ever had. I won't go into that. But she never dated again after that. And yes, she was a helicopter mother, but I've always felt like someone was watching me. We all know the feeling. And then at 10, I had a snow sledding accident. Whether I had head trauma or not, I do not remember. But I do remember that I broke my collarbone.
What a lie. I don't remember if I got head trauma.
But I broke my collarbone. Now, and I do remember being in intense pain. I do not remember a lot of my childhood. My doctor said that was normal as an abused child. I guess you block it out. Basically, I remember very little, but I do know this. It started after I broke my collarbone. I remember waking to the fact that I was being bitten. The best way that I can describe this. You know how lily looks like a lily looks like a pod before it blooms? Well, there was these pods, but they had mouths like plants, like Venus flytraps. I was laying in the bed in agony from my collarbone, and these things were attacking me, these flower-like things. And my mother told me I was just hallucinating. As always, it would disappear when I would call out to her, and she would come to my room. And it could have been a hallucination. I'm just saying this is when the weirdness started for me. Like I said, the feeling like I was being watched only continued after this. At about 14 or 15, I woke one night for no reason that I can understand and went down the hall. I ran into a man. There was never anyone at my house but me and my mom. Except for the one time I previously stated that she dated. So she brought him home one time, and he messed with me, and she never dated anyone again. So back to the current time in the story, there shouldn't be anybody in the house. So she runs into this man, or I run into this man, and she said, you know how you feel when you run into someone? Like I ran into this man in our hallway and took off running and screaming. And my mother always kept a gun. She checked the whole house and nobody was there. But I know that I ran into a man. And so I talked to a friend about this at school. The friend was Native American. And he told me, never sleep on your back. Spirits can attack you and try to enter you. Silliness, I know. And why I took him serious, I don't know. But after that, and the man in the hall, I started having night terrors. Horrible dreams. So badly that to this day, I rarely dream. I prayed as a child every night not to dream. I remember thinking, if I think of cartoons, I won't have a bad dream. I do believe the abuse, the stress, etc. that I put up with, I put on a shell front. I will never lead, I will never let anyone hurt me. I will never, or I guess she meant I will never let anyone hurt me. I do believe now that I'm 45 years old and in a bad place as a child hurt. And I do apologize that this is long. But in any case, the night terrors continued for years. Then the sleep paralysis started. The first couple of times I saw a dark shadow mass. Not really with any form. It was just a formless shadow thing that would come from over the top of me and try to strangle me. And this started after my marriage. I raised 2 children in 22 years of marriage. And this marriage was, I will say, closet abusive, verbally abusive. But so carefully abusive, it was never in front of anybody. And very rarely in front of the children. When my children turned 15 and 17, it became apparent to them that it was abusive. I am only telling you this because I have began to believe the paranormal attack or will attack you when you are at your weakest, when you're vulnerable. And that's certainly true from everything that I've read. The last few years of my marriage, the voices started. The sleep paralysis attacks continued. The voices started as murmurings. Like I would tell myself the neighbors had just had their TV up too loud. And because it was quiet at night, I could hear it. And I would tell myself that's why I could never make out what the voices were saying. It would always be like muffles, blah, blah, muffled. And I would just drift off, ignoring it. my mother always claimed that I couldn't stay here or there because I was a sleepwalker, which I never believed. I began to think, other than being a helicopter mother, that she was also borderline. I'm just going to post this word in the chat, and you guys can tell me what it means. It looks like Munchausen. Anyone know what that word? Ryan, can you pronounce that word for me?
Fuck, I have no idea what that is.
All right, so it's not just me this time, but anyway, she's a borderline.
Munchausen?
A Munchausen.
I don't know. Maybe that means something in a different language or place.
Okay, so we'll go with that. All right, so, and I would tell myself that's why I would never make out what the voices were saying. It was always, oh fuck, I just read that. Anyway, not sure about the spelling on that, but always claiming something was wrong with me as a child, which has led me to avoid doctors. Hey, Ryan, you have that in common. You avoid doctors too.
Not no more, I don't.
Okay, Ryan has come around on that. Anyway, so she doesn't take her, she doesn't take her kids to the doctor for tiny things or anything either, right? And she doesn't like doctors. Anyway, as I say, I keep referring to my childhood not to blame my mother, but as an adult, I had turned into a self-protective person, untrusting of anybody, and I really was in a bad place. But anyhow, back to what I was saying, I sleepwalked during my 22 years of marriage, only to have my children and husband to tell me of things I did over the years. So I suppose my mother was not lying about that. I was told by a doctor that sleepwalking is an anxiety disorder. And I can believe that. As my life has been good for the last 2 years, I have not had a sleepwalking episode. But during my marriage, I did have the sleep paralysis as well. Also, my children claimed to hear voices at many times, and I always assured them it was just nightmares. I even burnt sage to give my daughter peace of mind. The night terrors in my life, continued with black masses hovering over me, pressing on myself, strangling me to the point where I thought I would die. Only once did the entity ever speak, and it whispered into my ear, "You're next, bitch." Only, now, fuck's sakes, I gotta take a swig of this.
Oh, god damn it, my throat's so dry, I'll just have to have some of this delicious
Liquor.
rum.
So, exactly. Now, like the movie The Nightmare, I guess maybe she means The Nightmare on Elm Street, maybe? I don't know, I just don't remember one called Nightmare. Anyway, I started noticing that I could hear and feel the spark of electricity in the air when this was going to happen. And the wah-wah sound that accompanied it. I also remember my friend telling me never to sleep on your back. That's an interesting fact, by the way. We'll discuss that when we're done this. I realized
More of a sleep apnea thing, isn't it?
That's what I thought too. But like now she was speaking, and her friend told her specifically that spirits apparently can enter you more easily when you're on your back. But we'll come back to that.
Or if you take heroin, you should always lay on your side.
Or just not take heroin. But anyway, I realized
everything in moderation, William.
Yeah. Moderation. Anyway. A bullet to the brain's okay. Moderation. Anyway. I realized if I felt this coming on, I could turn onto my side and it would stop. But once I felt like I had control over this, I guess it wasn't necessary. Anyway, things started happening in my house when I was very stressed or upset. Like poltergeist activity. That's what I was going to actually reference. Anyway, believe me or not, I literally to this day do not keep anything in the kitchen plugged in, because there were times when my husband and children told me that the toaster would start up on its own, the refrigerator opened, the blow dryer in the bedroom would come on, and
it's almost like that little town in Rome, right?
Oh man, that's a podcast one of these days.
That popped up in the news again, hey?
For real?
Yeah.
Guys, we'll come back.
I won't divert you though.
But we'll come back to that too. That's one of my favorite stories. Anyway, so like all this electronic equipment would turn on and shit like that, and no one was on the other end of the house near where these objects were that would come on. So it would only happen when she was not home. But she did take note later in life that these were times in her life of excessive stress for her or for me. Like I'm reading this in like two fucking perspectives. Anyway, just like the sleepwalking events, I had even begun to sleep with the TV on, so I wouldn't hear the murmuring of people talking at night or have, the sleep paralysis. Just like on the movie The Nightmare, this seemed to help until the last attack/episode that I had. I've not had one since, but I do remember hearing that womp womp sound, hearing the electrical spark in the air. Now, when I hear womp womp, I picture it womp womp, like cartoons.
Well, you know what? It's funny because a lot of the things that she's describing, I used to have very intensely when I was younger. And what I'm taking away from it, that wah wah sound, what I used to hear when I was lying in my bed as a child, I would hear something that used to go like, oh, it's hard to do. It's like, something like that.
It almost sounds like a baby heartbeat.
Like on a sonogram.
Right.
Right, and you can hear a heartbeat. It was kind of like that, but it had. I can't like produce it properly with my mouth. It had a gentler quality to it.
For sure.
And it was that wow wow sound, but like wow wow.
All right.
Sorry.
It's kind of thing. It's hard to put the words.
It is very much so. I just want to illustrate though that the murmuring and all that shit I used to get as well.
Okay. All right. So this is she's having a lot of electronical poltergeist like activity. But anyway, then the TV started blurring, not visually, the sound. The sound sounded like it was going slow, like when a tape is deliberately being slowed down, until it suddenly cut off. Bam! Then I'm paralyzed and attacked on the bed by this black entity. And for you kids out there that don't know what a tape sounds like, in the digital age, that is what it's like when a tape would slow down. It's like, a lot of
a cassette tape.
A cassette tape, or even like the the big 8 tracks and shit. It's all the same with that, right?
Yeah.
But
anything with a magnetic ribbon.
Yeah, kids today won't get that, right? It's like, fuck. Even if they get CDs, it's like a miracle, right? It's like CDs. You had to like fucking put this shit in places. You couldn't just download it. Anyway.
You had like a big box with a bunch of little discs in it.
Yeah.
How old fashioned.
I miss those days. But anyway. Where was I to? Okay, so she would get attacked by this black entity. And all these years I researched, I put it off, told myself that this is a medical condition. Couldn't move. I was being strangled, being smashed. I always knew if I could move, it would stop. But I couldn't. I couldn't move. And I kept telling myself that this is not paranormal. This is not an attack. This is, it's genetic. Anything else in my life that was going on, it was just in my mind, right? All a result of stress and anxiety. I told myself this nightly. I think this was the only way I could believe I wasn't crazy. And I was told by the doctor that I had depression and an anxiety disorder. But that was after all this I'm telling you now. But back to this last account, I thought, I just got move. I could just, if I could move, I could snap myself out of this. So, also I had a dog, and a dog that I had a bond with, never before with an animal. And this dog, I could look at her and know what she wanted or was thinking. And she was paralyzed at about 7 months old. So I had to, look after her every need. I took her to every vet available. I loved this dog like it was my own child. I cried telling you about this dog. But I loved her every day. I had her, and I thank God for giving her to me. I mentioned her because during this attack that I have, that I have convinced myself over the years that this was it wasn't a physical or mental issue. I was thinking if I can move, I can blink. Or it was a physical. I'm sorry, it's just the way it's typed. I was thinking if I could move or I could blink, then I can snap out of this. I could make it stop. My dog started barking up into the air, into every spot where I was seeing this dark entity. So the dog was seeing it too. And when she did, my ex awoke and nudged her, to get her to quit, like, stop it. And when he nudged her to quit, he bumped me, and I was able to move. If I was moved, I was able to move. But Daisy, that's the dog, she wouldn't quit barking until this entity receded and actually left out of the corner of my room. I thought to myself, I guess Daisy just felt my stress, an intuitive animal, right? And I went back to sleep. But I made sure I laid on my side when I did this, as I felt that, like, the TV was no longer working as a distraction to my quote-unquote disease or mental anxiety issue. I didn't use that. So when I got up the next day, the TV was burned up. It was fried, as was the internet, the router, right, on the computer. And I would like to say these three different things were not on the same circuit or plug-in. Okay, they were all different plugins. I guess it would depend on if they were on the same breaker, hey Ryan, Mr. Electrician?
Yes.
Right.
Well, yeah.
But anyway, the computer the router was on a protective surge protector. The surge protector was fine, so that's kind of strange. I did replace it because even though it still worked, I assumed it had to have been damaged, as the router, and the computer were completely fried. And the TV was in my room, and it was not on the same circuit, she said. Not the same circuit or plug-in. And that was fried, too, so that's strange. Nor was anything else in the house on the same plug-in as anything damaged or fried. So, like, these other things were, I guess on the same circuit and stuff like that, and they were fine. And this made no sense. And I thought, Daisy, my dog, she heard, she heard what I saw. Why else would she react and bark at this entity in the air? And if you recall, she was seeing the entity where, I was, or Mary was, and the dog was barking at it, right? So, that to me is, kind of confirmation or reaffirmation that there is something there. So anyway, where was I to? I did go on antidepressants, but the voices did not stop. I started sleeping with headphones on so I wouldn't hear the voices, which is actually, this is kind of cool, how I found EUS, how she found us, which was on its second podcast. Wow, so she's a long-time listener. Second podcast.
Jeez, second podcast.
Congrats to you. Kudos to you, Mary. That is fantastic.
That's going back to, what, 2012?
Yeah, it's like over 4 years, yeah.
I was 2017 now, brother.
Yeah. So the headphones help. I made sure I slept on my side, as to this day I cannot sleep on my back. And I raised my kids, did what society expected of me. But I slept with my headphones. I told myself I had anxiety issues. Then hurt my back and got hooked on painkillers. Nothing, no antidepressants ever got rid of the voices that she would hear, or I would hear. I got to pick a perspective next time. Right?
Yeah, you keep changing.
See, usually I do it from their perspective, and lately I just start reading, and I'm not good at doing it this way. Anyway, one day my rehab doctor looked at me and said, quote, "Until you change your life, you're never going to be able to get better and stay clean." I guess this is reference to the painkiller addiction. By this time, my children were growing up and having children of their own. I had started my addiction by sleeping 2 to 3 days straight before the drugs. My ex had actually said to me, "I think something is wrong. You're sleeping too much." I mention this again because now that I am happy and in a good place in my life, I had little to none as far as paranormal activity, except for this one issue. This one issue that, and this is in caps, so I guess this is to be emphasized, I fucking hate, has been with me since all the others had finally stopped. So this is still an issue. Whether you believe it or not, I know, this is the truth, and I hate it. Well, I listened to my my doctor. I, I quit.
That was a little Freudian. You
That was
got
a little-
cocks on the mind, bud?
No, I was thinking I'm gonna need a new drink soon. But anyway.
I'm gonna need a new dick soon.
Oh fuck!
This one wore down to a
it
nub.
fell right off. You know, it's fixing all the mistakes, right? But anyway, I listened to my doctor. I quit drugs, walked away from my family and everything I had after my whole life. 22 years of marriage, with nothing. My dog did pass before I left. I don't want anyone to think I left a handicapped animal or ungrown children. The children were growing up. The dog was dead. As it was the hardest thing I ever did in my life was to,
It was somebody having to go fucking find themselves and figure out who and what they are.
Exactly. And I've been clean ever since.
Go off and fucking do stuff like that sometimes. No judgment.
People do, right?
Yeah.
And ever since then,
you got to do you, baby. You got to do you.
I do me plenty.
That's why you're worn down to a knob.
All right, that's enough out of you, buddy. Anyway, I've been clean ever since and rarely have heard the night murmurings since. Nor have I had the night terrors or sleptwalked. I came off all meds, including antidepressants, hormones, etc. The only thing I have is a leaf. I don't go to the doctor or any doctor anymore. And I have never felt better in my life. I met a wonderful man that married me. Let's talk about all my issues. That lets me talk about all my issues when I want to. And treats me like a queen. Never presses me on anything. I have never been happy in life as I am now. But as I don't have the night terrors, I don't dream. When I do dream, which is a rare, it's totally fucked up. It's a totally fucked up dream or a night terror. But just to give you an example, they say, we dream every night. I may remember 3 dreams a year. And, honestly, she swears that this is true. And usually before I can relate them to my husband, I forget them. I rarely hear the voices. I won't lie, I still do sometimes, but rarely. But I know that I'm not crazy, and I do ignore them. The only thing that sucks, and I know people won't believe me, and they will say all this is bullshit. And honestly, I made it as short as I could. Now, the latest bullshit that happened is I know... Oh, this is interesting. I know when somebody's going to die. Please, Mary, don't tell me I'm going to die in this story. Please don't fucking tell me that. And no, it's not a counter above their head like bullshit on TV. And I want to express it really sucks to know. I cannot control it. I don't get to pick whom I have the feeling that, is going to die. Like, who I see this on. I don't get to pick. It just happens. And yes, it happens with total strangers. And yes, it happens with family members. Honestly, it just happened one day. I was at my uncle's house taking care of my grandmother, and I got this awful, the worst feeling I've ever had. I felt that my grandmother and my uncle was dying. I talked to my grandfather. He said, "Oh, you're just upset." I told my mother, and she got very angry. She actually cussed me out and said my uncle was her brother, and that I had no brothers or sisters, and that if I knew he was dying, that I had no right to tell her, which was very terrible for your own mother, to talk to you like this. And I told her, "No, Mom, he is my uncle. He didn't tell me he was dying. I cannot explain this to you, Mom. I just know," which this was not good enough, for my mother. And like I said, my grandfather blew me off. And my uncle and grandmother did die within 6 months of my quote-unquote feeling. I was deeply hurt by my mother, plus all the childhood issues. And I was also hurt by my grandfather, whom never helped us. Me and my mom had these issues growing up, and I guess we weren't helped. And so when my doctor told me I would never get better unless I changed my life, I did change my life. Like I said, I met and married a man that supported me. No matter what I've done or been through, he was only building me up. I got myself together, and after 43 years, finally started to love myself and let myself be loved and realize what real love was. But the fucking shit did not stop. I have met 2 other people since and had the you're gonna die feeling. Both have passed within 6 months of me feeling this way about them. And no, they are not family. They were both total strangers that I met only once. And it's the worst awful feeling I've ever felt. But as for the paranormal, it's the only thing I'm left with, knowing when someone is going to die. Believe me or not, it's true. And yes, it does suck. To this day, I will not sleep on my back, and I sleep with headphones on. So I don't hear the murmurings or voices, TV or radio waves, that's it. Whatever the fuck it is that I hear, I don't hear that. And I know this may sound crazy, but this is my story. And no, I can't pick or choose whom is going to die, or who is revealed to me to die. It's just a nasty, fucked up feeling I get. And when I do get this feeling, that person is always dead before 6 months of me feeling it. Thanks for listening to my story, Effed Up Story. So, Mary, thank you so much for sending in your story. And I want to... That's very interesting. The whole bit about feeling, knowing when somebody is going to die. I mean, it's really freaky. I've heard, mediums and psychics say... that they would get an inkling or something like that. In fact, I've heard that a lot of them, they won't tell you if they have a feeling or a premonition that you're going to die, they won't tell you, right? That's part of their code, I guess. But what do you think, Ryan? I mean, that's pretty fucking freaky, actually.
Well, I mean, I will say this. I do empathize with some of the things that she was talking about, because that was a that was a really weird thing for me growing up when I was a kid, was that I would hear this, that sound that I talked about earlier, and I would hear murmuring and voices, and I was always terrified as a fucking kid all the time. I used to see stuff, I used to hear stuff. I'm not schizophrenic. I'm fucking 30 odd years old, and I don't generally see or hear things. I won't get into the other stuff, but it's one of those things where even with all I've heard and all I know about all the strange paranormal things, I guess I've always chalked it up to your imagination. The human mind is literally the most complex thing that we know of in the universe. I'm sure there's more complex things than the human brain, but it is the most complex thing that we know about in the universe. And I always enjoyed the quote that if the human brain was simple enough that we could understand it, we would be too simple to understand it. And so it's been very easy for me to convince myself over the years that a lot of this stuff was a super fucking overactive imagination. My imagination is just, even today, it just runs wild. And as a kid, it was just like an atomic bomb that went off every 30 seconds. And I convinced myself that, a lot of that stuff was just an overactive imagination. Now, we've talked about this this theory in the past with quite a few things, right? And I think it's an important one. We talk about the double-blind studies that prove that prayer can work, right? That 100 people all praying to no deity, just praying, just group focus on an outcome of something, focusing on people or a situation, can create what do they refer to it as? A statistically significant increase in the probability of something happening. One such study had to deal with fertility, and there were fertility clinics that were randomly chosen from around the world, where the clinics themselves had no idea that they were the focus of the experiment, hence the term double-blind study, nor the patients or the doctors were aware that they were part of a study, other than a very large group of people, some trained spiritualists and people who meditate and focus, were brought together to focus on more fertile parents in this particular clinic. And there was like this massive spike in fertility. So these studies have been repeated time and time and time again. We know that the human mind, your own personal will, your own force of personality and focus, can affect the universe around us. So in a situation where you think that something is the case, that you think that there's an entity, or you really, really believe that there's an entity, we've discussed the idea of thought forms and, the potential reality of thought forms. And I think it's very possible that this is a situation where that could fit, I guess.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, we've discussed that before. I do have something to add to that. Before I do, I'm going to stop the presses and say hello to Laura from Sacramento. I saw that up above, so I'm just saying hello to Laura from Sacramento. That said, I will... Okay, on the topic of having premonitions and shit like that, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if I ever told a story in a podcast or not. Now, I definitely, I can't... I haven't had this repeat and stuff like that. There's been a handful of times in my life where I've had a bad feeling, a feeling of something that I was sure about, and it was always right on. The one time I didn't listen to it, I regret it. I don't know if I told that story where some older asshole stole my candy. Did I ever tell that? But anyway,
I don't think you have. Go ahead, tell the story where people took your candy.
When I was in grade 5 or something like that, these high school students, actually me and my friend were walking down the street near his house, going downtown, and I saw this group of older kids, high school kids, way down the road, and I just had this feeling they were gonna take, I just felt like something bad was gonna happen. I was telling my friend, I was like, come on, let's go hide behind this house, before they even get up here. And I kept at him. He was like, no, they're not going to do nothing. No, and sure fucking enough, they came up and they fucking stole our candy. And I remember when we went to my friend's house, his mom ended up giving me way more candy than I had and way better stuff. But it was the one time I ignored that voice and that happened. One thing that did happen as well, and again, I don't know if I ever told the story, but I did foresee someone's death, but it was somebody who had already died, but I didn't know about it. It was a complete surprise to me. So I'll just tell that it wasn't a big, it's not a big story or nothing, and then we'll do another fan submission.
All right, I'll take the opportunity to go deal with something. I'll be right back.
All right. So anyway, what had actually happened when I was in... It must have been grade 5 or 6 or something like that. I had a paper route. And in real life, I had this paper route, and it was right up around my street, the street below. But at the same time, I had a friend who, or actually 2 friends that lived a little farther away. I had to walk down a really long road, and then there was a tunnel that I had to walk through. And then there was this other bit of a road we walked down, and this is actually where those stoplights used to go out every time, or the street lights would go out, or one of them would every time I walked under it. But anyway, and then there was a field I would have to cross that was very isolated to get to where they were. So in real life, I'd, gone to visit those guys a lot and, hang around and stuff like that. And I was in this period of time in life where I was having these really fucking strange dreams, and that would turn into these nightmares. And somehow when I was having this dream currently, I was aware that, like, when it turned dark, like when it got dark in my dream, it would turn into a nightmare. So, like, it could be light out and it was fine. But once the sun went down, it would actually turn into a nightmare. So for some reason, I was, like, aware of this in the dream, but it didn't feel like a dream. It felt real. So I was afraid of it turning to nighttime. And because it's a dream and some things are strange, I wasn't doing the paper route up on my street or the street below like in real life. I was actually doing it down by my friend's house, which was kind of far, a little bit far away. And it was summer, and it was late. It was in the evening, before it gets dark, when the sun's starting to set. So it was still really, like, bright out. It was still like a bright blue sky and stuff. But I'd become very aware that it's soon going to be getting dark. And when it gets dark, bad things happen, so I'm going to have to get home. Right? So I was actually collecting for the paper. And I said to myself, I'm just going to do these next couple houses. And so I went to this house, and I knocked on the door. It was like a screen door, and the big door. And she came out. She opened the door, and I noticed it was my grade 4 teacher, Mrs. Pereiras. I still remember her name. And she was from the Philippines. She was pretty short. She had glasses, kind of I guess a chubby woman. But anyway, she had this look on her face, this really terrifying look on her face, and she was like, motioned for me to come and wait in the porch, or she said wait in the porch or something like that, and while she got the money. And so I went in the porch. She closed the door as she went to get the money, and I was getting very impatient because I knew, like, it was getting dark and she was taking a while. And when she finally came back, her, like, the look on her face was just pure terror, right? And she just begged me not to leave. Like, don't go. She was holding, like, grabbing me. And it really freaked me out, right? It was just her tone, the way she acted and everything like that. And I was so panicked to get home. Anyway, and when I opened the door to leave and I stepped outside, it was no longer this beautiful blue sky. It was this really dark, stormy sky. Like, really, really stormy all of a sudden, really dark. And this force picked me up. And I just remember looking at the tops of my hands like that, like my arms were outstretched in front of me. And I was flying through the sky at, like, light speed, like just flying towards the sky. And it was like the sense of panic and just terror was just, like, overwhelming, right? And I remember when I woke up, I actually did experience a little. It was like a touch of sleep paralysis. Like, I couldn't move at first. I could only blink, and I was like I was almost in shock. And at the time, I was on bunk beds, and when I could kind of move, I turned my head to its side, and from there on my bunk bed, I could look out my bedroom window. And when I did that, I remember seeing this red car down the road pull out of this driveway. And I knew who that was. It was my grade 4 teacher's sister lived there. And I saw her car pull out. And anyway, I can't remember when it came about, but I was telling one of my friends about this dream that I had. And they told me Miss Pereiras died. I didn't even know that. And the really fucking weird part about it is that Miss Pereiras lived on that street. Like, I didn't, like, where my friends lived, where I was doing the paper route in the dream, like, that's not where I do it in real life. But that's where she lived, and that's where I was doing the paper route in my dream. And I didn't even know she lived there. I had no fucking idea that that's where she lived. And anyway, I woke up, I ended up seeing her sister with, some kind of weird connection in that way. First thing I saw when I woke up. And then I find out that she had died. And what was I gonna say? I almost think back to, because dreams are all symbols, right? And I think about the idea of her being so afraid for me to leave, and then seeing myself like from that perspective, flying through the sky and stuff like that. I wonder, like, if it's some kind of symbolic connection to, like, what a spirit might see when they die and they fly upwards, or something like that, or she was terrified to die. I don't know. I kind of poked and prodded with what that could mean over the time, but I just find it really weird that I dreamt that, and then by dreaming that, brought up the subject and found out that she had actually died, right? So
now, I guess, the real question with something like that is, why you and why her? Right?
Well,
is it just one of these strange cosmic connections that happens, right? Like two cosmic neurons collide.
Well, that's the thing.
And it's like a in reality is a misfire, right? Like the information was going somewhere else, but you caught it instead.
Well, that was the thing about it. It's not like I had like this special relationship outside of school where I knew her or my family knew her or anything like that. I mean,
just coincidentally, you lived up the street from her sister. Or something,
that's
right?
it. That's the only and the only other connection being that I just happened to have two friends that lived, one of them on her street and the other one nearby, and but honestly, I had no fucking idea that she lived down there. Like, I mean, us friends, like, we all went to the same elementary school and stuff, but yeah, I don't know what it meant or anything. The dream was terrifying, but I remember being even more spooked when I found out that she had died, right?
But again, that, I can't help but think that it speaks to the overall strangeness that surrounds this kind of stuff, right? Like the fact that you had a premonition about somebody so really removed from you, right? Like it wasn't anybody that was important to you, wasn't anybody you were really connected with.
Actually, you know what? Emma just asked something that I was very quick to answer to, but I just thought of another example. This was only like, a year or two ago, when my nan died. Like, my nan had been, she had Alzheimer's, and she had it for a long time before she actually succumbed to it. And anyway, like, I had not visited I did a little bit in the beginning, but I hadn't visited her in the home, like, at all for a long time after that, because I remember I got mom to take, because my mom worked there, right? I mean, she was a LPN at a nursing home, and she worked at the same one where Nan was, so, like, mom looked after Nan every day. So I heard, like, all the stuff that was happening with her, and I knew how far she had gone, and she, like...
And just to clarify, Nan is grandmother in this context.
Yes, his grandmother. And I knew, like, that, like, she didn't she didn't even really recognize mom or anything, like, at this point, right? But I remember asking mom, because I felt guilty. I mean, I was close with my nan growing up, and I asked her one Christmas, because she was going over, and I asked her to bring me with her, and I saw her there, and she was in the bed, and man, she couldn't move, she couldn't look. It was like she was a shell of herself, and I remember finding it really hard to watch. So I justified it by saying, she don't even know I'm there. It's, for me to go, it's just hard for me to watch. I justified it in that way, and I was like, well, mom's there all the time anyway, and so I didn't. But anyway. So this happened, like, I mean, she was with this for like 10 years or more. So it's a long time of, like, not really any news, or, it's just something that you kind of heard and you don't talk about. There's not really any updates. You know what I mean? It's just, I hadn't thought about it in a long time, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
And
I've been through the same thing. I know what you're talking about.
and I had come home one day after work, and my wife Brittany, she came to me and she said, I got some bad news to tell you. And I knew what she was gonna say. I said, "It's about Nan, isn't it?" Somehow I knew, and she said, "Yeah." And so she wasn't actually dead yet. She was very close to it, and she had to do not resuscitate. I mean, you know how it is. So I did get to visit her and say everything I wanted to say before she got. I was really happy to do that, even though I bawled my eyes out. Right, it broke me down when I was there seeing her like that. And I also had the same thing when my cat. No, wait, did I know that with Lloyd? I can't remember if I knew that with Lloyd. I had a cat named Lloyd. We actually did a podcast on Animal Souls when that happened. Yeah, I can't remember if I did with Lloyd, but I did with Nan. So that is one other example, I guess, that I guess kind of fits that. She wasn't dead, but I knew, there was no clue, there was nothing, and I somehow knew when my wife told me that she had to tell me something. I knew what it was. So yeah, that would be the other example that I can think of off the top of my head. Now, what if someone?
I know that Jerry dropped the question there. He said, "Speaking of cosmic connections, how did you two guys meet?"
We actually spoke about that tonight. Let's fucking tell.
That's why I brought it up.
Okay.
Right before we went live, Will and I were actually talking about that.
How I don't know.
About cosmic connections.
I don't know if anybody could believe this, because when I tell it like this, it sounds fucking nuts. But if it had not been for the video game, The Elder Scrolls of Morrowind, not only would Ryan and I have not have met, there wouldn't have been an effed up story. I wouldn't be married. I wouldn't have a son. All those things wouldn't have happened without the Elder Scrolls Morrowind. So thank your fucking lucky stars there was an Elder Scrolls Morrowind. Because what had happened, Ryan and I had actually, we met through a mutual acquaintance. I was actually good friends with him at one point. Both Ryan, we've actually brought him up in other podcasts. We had this big fucking thing. Anyway, this was a guy who had different friends every week. He had some serious fucking shit going on in the last couple of years I knew him. And I had actually not even talked to him in a long time. And so it was really out of the blue when he called me up. But, I still thought I knew him. I hung around with him for many years. So he said he was going to come pick me up. And, this particular time, Ryan was in the back seat. And that's where I ended up having to sit. And, I've been in the back of that fucking car with new people all the fucking time. Never got to know them because there's a new fucking person every week, right? But this time, somehow, Ryan or I, we fucking brought up Xbox or something like that. And this was back when nobody had an Xbox, right? Everybody was PlayStation 2 and nobody knew what Xbox was. Nobody knew what the Elder Scrolls was or nothing like that. And it just so happens that Ryan and I both fucking had an Xbox and both fucking had the Elder Scrolls Morrowind 4, and we were both insane for that game. We were both on these niche websites and stuff like that, eating up every bit of information we could find on it. We were totally two of the biggest fans I think you could think of with that game. And so when the topic came up, we were just bang, we were both gamers. We were shooting back information. Then, bang, we were both into the paranormal and shooting back shit like that. And we had all these same common interests. And then we come to find out that Ryan's a 10-minute walk from my house. And that's really where it all came from. And through Ryan, I met my wife because they both worked at the same coffee shop. And, from there, I married the woman. We have a son together. I mean, it's amazing. All through Morrowind. Right? So
all because we met randomly through a crazy guy.
And we
both love the Elder Scrolls Morrowind, and started a conversation and because nobody else, we were just sitting in the back together with a bunch of people, and we were just there shooting shit with one another, and that's what so that's how we met.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was really, it was one of those weird things where a lot of things happen from it. And Jerry, something that you might appreciate. Ryan will never let me put this up here, guys, but I have pictures of Ryan before his beard, and he looked all mean when he was all kind-hearted and, and gentle, and yeah. I know the inner Ryan. The inner Ryan's actually quite a nice young man. Getting a little bit old now, but
Yeah.
listen, can you take over long enough for me to grab another drink?
Yeah, for sure.
I'll be back momentarily.
All right. So earlier, Will and I brought up something. We were talking. Hey, Russell, how you doing, buddy? We talked about a town. Now, there's this little town in Sicily that, seriously, like, oh man, 14 years ago, I think. Um, 14 years ago, these spontaneous random fires started breaking out in this town. Um, oh, I'm so sorry, folks. I gotta send a message to my wife to come get the dog. He's getting restless now. I brought him in here to save him from the cat. So I posted it in the chat earlier. Canito die or D Coronia? Yeah, something like that. Here, I'll post it in the chat again. Oh boy. I'm trying to stop him from not going over microphones and stuff. The dog's name is Ragnar. So that's the name of the little village. So what was happening was these random fires were breaking out all throughout the town. So, I mean, we're talking about sofas and TVs and appliances that weren't plugged in. And, according to the report, scientists, electrical engineers, military all tried to figure out what was going on with the fire, um, or with all the fires. And they couldn't figure it out. And, there was a scientist who was quoted saying he saw an unplugged electrical cable just burst into flames. And I believe there was another quote. Now, I mean, I'm talking about something from 14 years ago. There was another quote from the fire chief. Now I got to reach back and check and see if the floor is wet. He may, in fact, have pissed on the floor. So even the fire chief had made comments that he believed it was an arsonist until he had seen something spontaneously combust.
Are you talking about the thing that happened in London? Was it London?
No, it wasn't London.
Sicily?
It wasn't Sicily. Here, I'll paste the name again.
Because I forget it every time.
Well, it's Canito di Coronia or something like that. A town on the northern coast of Sicily.
Wait, did you post it to Skype? You posted it to Skype. Nope.
No, I just threw it up in the regular chat.
I don't see it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't matter.
Yeah. So that's the name of the place. So now recently it popped up in the news again because I seen somebody here, Will, I'll send this to you. and then maybe you can, because I can't post links in the fucking chat. It's a pain in the ass, actually. Um, Here's a decent take on a bunch of information regarding that town. So at the time, there was one of these religious, I don't know what he was, a bishop or something like that, um, who was quoted as saying the agents of Satan are everywhere and they're very powerful or something like that. Um,
Yeah, he said that demons occupy a house and appear in electrical goods. Now I don't know, like there's lots of different information or like I guess theories. I mean, even to like magnetic. What was it I said? I just read it. Unknown electromagnetic radiation, but like
yeah,
I mean the whole
that
way.
would have to be some intense electromagnetic radiation to what they're talking about is a phenomenon called induction. And whenever you have coils of wire and you pass a magnetic field past those coils again and again and again, it generates a voltage, right?
Yeah.
So if there was something like that, then sure, something like that could happen. But it would have to be a intense, continuous magnetic field in order to induce a voltage that had enough juice to catch
Well,
cables shit on fire.
yeah, because from what I remember from the story is that there were, unplugged electronics that caught fire. I mean,
Yeah,
the whole thing was
it could
bizarre,
it
right?
could work in unplugged electronics as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's a
In
totally,
induced magnetic field, I mean.
it's a totally fucked up. I mean, I loved it the first time. Is this the new one that you gave me a link to?
Hey, bonkers, thank you. I that just covers the situation. I figured you could pull it up on your screen and but I don't know if you can. I don't think you can put that
Oh,
into the screen.
I could do it, but the problem is that it's copywritten material, so I'm not gonna do that. But
Oh, yeah,
we'll
I suppose it is. I just wanted to get the link out there. That's all for people
oh
who want to learn more.
well if
Can
it's
you post the link? You might not be blocked.
I can tell you what it's on. It's openminds.tv / actually just go to openminds.tv. They got a search function and just look up mysterious fires because that's the name of or the first couple of words of the article. You'll for sure find it that way. Now we have a shit ton of submissions.
Well, let's blast through another one. I just wanted to say, Bonkers, thank you very much for subscribing. Happy to have you here.
Oh, for
And
sure.
yeah, we do the stream every Monday at what's the time zone you use?
We use isn't it 5:30 PST? I think.
PST, yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple here from Rob Mason, and there's actually a picture here. So let me grab the picture and throw that up. Where's it to? Rob Mason. Did I download it? Yes, I did.
So basically, all the little bit of new news that popped out of this town was that I believe there was two people who claimed that they were responsible um, for these fires, that they were arsonists. Mike from Saskatchewan. I'm here in Alberta, so we start at 6:30, so that will be 5:30 for you, I think.
Do you know what? I don't think I downloaded that picture. We'll have to come back to that one. But we'll skip. He does have a story as well. Wait, that's also got a picture. All right, for Roberts, we'll have to come back to just because I want to have the picture there. I didn't grab them off the server, but that's fine. We got plenty of other ones. So the next one I'm gonna get to is I'm doing them in order of when we got them, right? So I have one here from Shane K. This one's not very long, and so maybe we'll get to do a couple of these. Where's my word thing. Fuck it. I'll just read it in here. All right. So he just sent this. I got it on the 5th of January. The ghost I've seen happened when I was a kid. In the house I grew up in, I saw ghosts in my parents' bedroom. I was about 4 or 5 years old. The first one that I saw, let me adjust this window a little bit. The first one that I saw, where was I to? I was about 4 or 5 years old. I woke up in the middle of the night for some odd reason. I was sleeping in the bed. I woke up and looked over at my dad, and there was a 3-foot tall shadow being staring at my dad's face. I got the impression that it was a boy's spirit. It had no face. It was just the shape of a human. The shadow was basically black. I'm not sure if it slightly glowed or not. As soon as I saw the shadow being, it started walking over to my side of the bed. I was scared shitless. I covered up with the blankets, and when I looked back, it was gone. The next time I saw a ghost, I was in the same room. At this time, I was 11 or 12. My parents were getting divorced, and I was sleeping alone in that room in the daytime. At that age, I had only slept in the room twice for whatever reason. But I was sleeping, and I woke up. And I saw a humanoid head floating in the air. It was in color and looked human. It looked solid. As if I were looking at a real-life human being in the flesh. The head was the size of a mini basketball, and he was wearing a Viking or nomad helmet. The helmet didn't have any Viking horns on it. It was a medieval type helmet and was open
I'll
faced.
just say for the record, the Viking helmets did not actually have horns on them.
Okay, so it was something different. Anyway, but it was an upside down T shape on the face to protect the facial area. So I guess whatever helmet has that. The look on his
A lot of medieval helmets had that because it would come down to bridge your nose and cover your cheeks below your eyes.
Right. Okay, anyway. The look on his face never changed. It was just staring in my general direction by the ceiling. With a dignified look on his face, I paid no mind to it. I was slightly scared and knew what I was seeing, so I went back to sleep 2 more times, and he was still there, each time I awoke. The third time he was gone. My mother said that she had seen a lady in white in the kitchen a time or two, and my niece told me that in another bedroom, she seen a spirit that looked like orange smoke. I'm not sure why my childhood home is haunted, but one reason could be that my mom told me that her and my dad had used a Ouija board in the house before. The Ouija board had told them how much money they had in the bank. It scared the crap out of her, or them. And she put the thing in the attic. The next time she checked on it, it had disappeared. And our childhood home is in Springfield, Oregon, USA. Thank you, Shane, for your story. Ouija board. Man, you know what? I was actually looking at Ouija board stories not too long ago. There's so much that happens with those, hey? Like, there are Reddit threads that are nothing but Ouija stories that go for, like, forever. And
that's true, but now...
Is it a case?
It could also be a place where just the boundaries are thin.
Do you think it, like... I mean, I can't help but wonder that... I'm not saying that Ouija... Like, no, I'm not saying they're fake at all. I think that, like, we discussed this before. Use anything as a tool, and...
It's intent, right?
It's intent,
just
right?
Just because you're using a device.
Right. But I think that, like, because Ouija boards are so synonymous with... that like paranormal activity, that a lot of people go in there with the mind of that, expecting it, and then sometimes
Yes, and you know what? There's a particular sentiment around Ouija boards, and um, I just had a friend of mine who's currently watching the show text me and say Ouija boards made by Mattel. Yeah, Ouija boards made by Mattel, and again, it's one of these things where it comes down to intent. Your own personal force of will is the important factor when it comes to things, quote unquote, magic. And here I'm on camera, so I can do bunny ears. Um,
Do Viking
so
ears, you know.
do Vi- do do Viking ears, I guess. Yeah. Um, so when you're performing any type of magical art, you know, all magical art is, in my opinion, is an individual's force of will um, being being forced upon the universe, right?
For sure.
And you know, the incantations, the props, you know, burning things in bowls, including blood, candles. What are they? Anathemas. You know, the ritual daggers, or anathems, symbols and symbology. All these things are to get the user into a particular mindset, right? To get them into this really high theta um, range. And like this is the range where people go, like sharpshooters go into high theta when they're moments before they pull the trigger. And you know, expert gymnasts go into high theta moments before they're about to execute some crazy move. And I think that the culmination of a lot of these rituals are meant to put the human mind into a high theta state where it spikes into this realm that we don't live in, but the human mind is capable of going to, where everything kind of connects and there's this very focused beam of will goes out and has an interaction with the universe.
Uh,
And that's what I think magic is. And I think it can happen in the written word. I think it can happen in rituals. I think it can happen with music and even certain performances.
you know what? I'll agree with you 100% that I do think that it's all focus and intent, right? And everything else is just tools for getting you there. Now, there's something slightly off topic. I just fucking thought of it. I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't think of this before I start the podcast. If I could get everybody to do this, you'll be my best friends forever. um, it's my wife's birthday tomorrow. I think it'd be really cool if, you know, as a surprise, I guess. Not in this chat thing, like, because I won't even remember where this happened, but once the podcast is up, if everybody could, like, or, you know, at least some people could say happy birthday, Brittany, in the comments. Again, you'd be my best friend forever, because I could show her that tomorrow and be like, see, I thought of something special for you for your birthday, and that'd be pretty cool. You know, last minute.
Happy birthday, Brittany. Well,
Focus
Will
intent, yeah.
is in this part of the video.
Well, that's why I said leave it in a comment on the video when it's actually, like, online, right? But
Yeah.
but man, I got more submissions. I mean, you tell me when you want me to do another one.
Well, I mean, I guess that's all I had to say about that. You know, when it comes to Ouija boards and that kind of thing, the idea of spirits. I mean, personally, I don't think I've ever heard of an ancient warrior ghost like that, spirit vision kind of thing. Um, yeah, we should have probably kicked the episode off with that. It doesn't seem so special now.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
um, but again, you know, was it a case of the use of a Ouija board or, you know, one of these strange areas on planet Earth that You know, we
I
use the word where the veil is thin, right?
I think
It's just go ahead.
no, I think you're right. I mean that you know your area and stuff like that, but I mean we can't dismiss all the different stories we hear of like people who have normal lives and then they get their hands on a Ouija board and then all of a sudden shit happens, right?
Shit hits the fan.
Shit
Yeah.
hits the fan, and I do think that like focus and intent matters, but then again, we have like some fucking idiots. I mean, you know these bonehead high school fucking jock people, oh, beer, right? And they got like a Ouija board, and they're like, "You will get the girls all freaked out. We'll get in their panties," and they throw this thing out, and something happens, right? Nobody expects this thing to happen, or something happens. They get these terrifying stories, and I think if we have to look at it there, one of the things that we have to consider is that is that permission again, right? It's almost like I guess spirits would know that you know what everybody regards this stupid block of wood or cardboard or whatever it's made of. Everybody thinks of this as if you they expect to see spirits, so they pounce on it. They like anyone buys a Ouija board, it's like the spirits like let's follow that fucking idiot. They're
Or you're just throwing a net into the deepest ocean in the universe,
well,
right? And dragging fucking anything to the surface.
yeah. Well, like the other thing is with with Ouija boards and spirits and all that stuff. Where was I going with that? I just heard that I was a great gift, and
Yeah, you know what? I knew that was gonna fucking stumble you up. You fucking.
I'm that narcissist. No,
My cute narcissism interrupted my fucking brain flow there for a
yeah,
moment.
it's like Peter
Yeah,
Griffin when
now-
he was
Now you folks get to see behind the curtain a little bit.
behind the curtain. That's right. But
Oh, shit.
with the Ouija board, like, okay, I did hear this in a near-death experience. I can't remember whose it was, but it was it was one of those, like, often mentioned, like, crazy ones. I just can't remember his fucking name. Again, memory, right? But he reported seeing, all kinds of stuff. Like, one of his, like, he got a view of things, right? And one of the biggest tortures that he saw were all these spirits on Earth, and they were doing unimaginable things, like to people, like very perverse things, and trying in vain to do to people, right? Like I guess sexual things that they couldn't because they were transparent. They go through them, or trying to, like I remember this one woman was vainly grabbing at somebody's cigarette, like trying to grab it and have a puff, and she couldn't. And alcoholics trying to drink, and they couldn't drink. And they try in vain forever. Like they just...
Jesus, this sounds like hell.
Well, exactly, right?
As I sit here smoking and drinking.
Well, that's basically what he described it as. One of the versions of hell. And if you think about it, if that's true, if there are spirits all around us all the time, then, man, you are never alone. You're in that room. You are never alone. So if you pick up a Ouija board or whatever, and you got these spirits and stuff like that, I mean, they know. It's like, hey, they're going to be given permission with this thing. Of course.
Well, DJ, I'd like to point out that I'm not exactly in a position to get up and go outside.
Yeah, that's right. You got to be live.
I'm live. I'm here. I got a fan right over here. You might hear it in the background, and it sucks everything out the window. It's all good.
I will answer a couple of questions here. I've never used a Ouija board, honestly. I know Ryan...
I did it on stream. Or on a podcast.
Ryan picked one up for one of our Halloween streams, I think.
Halloween, yeah, that's right. It was.
Never worked for him at all. Let's see what else is here. They had an investigation of...
Now, I have used them. I have used Ouija boards and had them produce some sort of result. I mean, exactly what that was. It was very, very long ago, and I didn't take it really serious. And but I know some weird stuff reportedly happened to some of the people involved.
As to Jerry's question, like about an investigation with a haunted house they did one on YouTube. And they had used Ouija boards for rituals, and do I think it's unprofessional? I think calling anything in the paranormal realm is professional. It's kind of,
kind of a stretch, yeah.
Yeah, because like.
But now there are these people in the paranormal realm. Like let's point this out, okay? Something happened recently regarding Father Malachi Martin. Will, do you know who that is?
No, I do not. He's a priest, right?
Very good. Very intuitive of you.
It's not my father.
So, Father Malachi Martin was a Catholic priest who kind of went rogue and started doing exorcisms on the side, right?
Yeah.
And just very recently, now it had been suspected for a while, but very recently, a man who used to drive him around, who later became a CIA or FBI agent and has since retired, has come forward and said, Father Malachi Martin was the priest that...
Oh, the exorcist!
Yes.
I did read it.
There you go.
I just forgot the name. Do you know something? I will say this.
He was on Coast to Coast AM all the fucking time before he died.
Nobody knew that he was the guy, right?
Well, he died because of
Zuzu. Exactly.
Right?
And
that, an invisible force pushed him, and people seen it.
Well, here's the thing, right? And I'm going to say that... I kind of just made a joke about the paranormal. And the thing is that almost nobody is into it enough to be like, that fucking Missy off.
Well, yeah, but TV works in a completely different way. We have had the experience of seeing a little bit behind the curtain with that shit. And TV isn't geared towards showing you the reality.
No, but news is also like, I mean, you don't really get let's face it, we're all fans of the paranormal, right? Everybody who's watching this right now is a fan of the paranormal. And you're not going to find that in mainstream news generally, right? You don't nobody takes the shit serious. It's always, if they do cover it, it's always covered as like a tongue-in-cheek.
A woo-woo fucking topic.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that there's a lot of people who take advantage of gullible and vulnerable people. Like, I'm going to say this right now as a big fan of, like, the paranormal. I fucking hate those shows where they go to a haunted place every episode and they supposedly catch something. Because you know what? It's not that fucking common. You can't have a TV show where something so rare is common enough that you can catch something every week. You can't fucking do it. And it's always something like, oh my God, did you hear that? And they're always British, right? They're always.
And they got to bring in a psychic.
And they got like a $200 fucking like night vision camera. Like none of them got a fucking budget for anything nice. They got this $200 camera, and there's like a group of them that go in this fucking house. Is there anyone here? Oh, did you hear that? If there's someone here, do it twice. Oh God! And then they run out like a bunch of fucking schoolgirls. It's like, really? This is TV. Right? Like, how could anybody take the paranormal serious with that? Like, I don't care. Even if you're talking about UFO, you can go to a hot spot. You're not going to catch something every week. It doesn't fucking work like that. The paranormal is interesting the way it is because it's niche. If it was that common, nobody would bat an eyelash that, this stuff happens. They'd be like, oh, yeah, I saw one last week in real life.
The very nature of the paranormal or supernatural or supernormal or Fortean or whatever you want to call it, the very nature of it, whether we're talking about UFOs or cryptid creatures or true paranormal events, it's one of the qualities that makes it what it is the fact that it's so fucking random
and it's rare,
right?
Like, exactly, like it like unsolved mysteries, or even doing what we do. What do we do? We collect it from anybody all across the world. I don't care where they're from, right? We collect it, right? But what do you and I have? We got like a handful of really lame stories together, right?
Yeah.
Compared And that's reality. Like if we had to
compared to some of the crazy, outlandish, bizarre tales that are told by the people that we've interviewed or received stories from, or people from around the world who really have legitimately bizarre tales.
exactly, right? Like, and then you have, what was it? Like defining Bigfoot stories. So like we don't have proof. Like, well, I mean, there's been stuff, but nothing valid. Like, there's nothing in a science museum saying somewhere we found Bigfoot. Here's
Well, what was it, today or yesterday? It was just announced that some guy claims to have a have a Bigfoot foot.
yeah, the claims, right? Well,
Claims,
now we'll see
yeah.
what happens. But here's a thought. Nobody's ever fucking got evidence of him, right? We're still looking, and that's fine. I'm all for looking. I mean, that's what's interesting with the paranormal is we don't fucking know. We got little tidbits, and we're looking. But let's hire like 4 or 6 fucking rednecks, throw them in the woods, and show up catching something that nobody's ever fucking caught. So it's a show of literally fucking setting traps where nothing ever happens. It's a show about nothing. It's Seinfeld without the comedy.
It's Seinfeld in the woods without the comedy.
Yeah.
That's some guy constantly saying that everything he sees looks squatchy.
Yeah.
This is a real squatchy area right here. This is where squatches would like to hang out. This is a real squatchy region.
Right, and the whole concept of like that you're gonna actually catch something on TV is absurd to me. Now, like going and getting somebody's story and reenacting it, sure, it's a big world. There's lots of people in it. There's lots of stories, but the idea that you're gonna fucking catch even a year, you're not even gonna catch anything in a year. Let's face it, you're gonna have a show and you're probably never gonna catch anything. And if you do catch something, it's gonna be so subtle, like literally like somebody giving a birthday card and it falling over, that nobody's ever gonna look at that and be like, well, that was something, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't get.
So Emma just dropped a comment there. What about the temple in Nepal that has a skull? I was just thinking about that. I do believe they tested it and discovered that it was some kind of goat or something. That that it wasn't actually They said it was the very top of the skull of a yeti. But when the DNA was tested, it was a Nepalese fucking mountain goat.
Okay. So before I went off on my tangent about, because like I'm saying this as someone who loves the paranormal too, right? Like, yeah, we do the show, but I mean we're sitting back watching all the same shows that you guys watch, right? Like,
well, you have to we've always made it a staple of what we do to not really judge or pass any kind of yay or nay on the stories that we cover. We greatly appreciate that there are a percentage of stories that may in fact be made up. But now, you think of the people who've gone through something real and are terrified of it and confused, and they've had their whole, your whole regular life turned upside down because the shit that people tell you is just made up and fake and false is something that you've encountered. And it's so impactful on your life that it flips everything upside down. Those people can easily be lumped in with the people who have chosen to fabricate stories. So we've always made it a point of the show not to really pass judgment, but to talk about the story and talk about the events, assuming that they have happened in the way that they were put forth.
right.
And likewise, I think that a lot of these shows delegitimize the actual real nature. You would have to have a show that just covered everything and went around talking to people about about the things that they experience.
Well,
You can't have a paranormal show that actually shows you paranormal things.
but there are good shows like well, Unsolved Mysteries always comes to mind, but another one,
Yeah, but what did Unsolved Mysteries do? They do what we do.
they
Or
did,
they did
they
what
did,
we do.
but I will.
Right? And that's the only way, that's the only kind of format for a TV show about the paranormal that I can see is working, right?
Dude, what was this? What was that show that did the one with the Dogman and or the werewolf? The werewolf. What was the name of the show? A Haunting? Was it a Haunting? Or
Yeah,
right? Well, I will say this, okay?
that was interesting. Those stories are kind of interesting.
They are, and I'm gonna give some guys an idea, give everybody, I guess, some back, stuff they might not know. They had actually come to me a year or so ago about doing, covering one of the stories that we did on our show, and we had, like, I won't go into why we didn't allow it, but I will say this, that they were, they wanted to check the sources and like they basically wanted to make sure that it wasn't bullshit before they would even consider it. And so I know for a fact that show, they actually do look for the real deal. I know that from dealing with them. So anybody who was a fan of that, I'm a big fan of that show. I really, there's many episodes that I watched that I really liked. I remember one too with these guys, this couple owned a restaurant, and they had all this bad shit happen. Anyway, they found buried in one of the walls was a cursed object, right? So like just from dealing with them and how much that they wanted to do before they even looked at the story, basically, it gave me a whole new respect for that one. Do you know what I mean? Like, those guys actually.
But again, look at the format. They stick to the same kind of format. They don't have people out in the field.
No, they do what we do.
They collect the stories from around the world and they do reenactments of it. Now, mostly it's in North America, right?
Yeah.
But there's so much North America, Canada, and United States is fucking massive.
It is.
It's Canada and the United States together is the largest fucking landmass on the planet, right?
One thing Quizzle asked, do you guys think it's possible for a ghost or spirit to actually harm or kill someone? Yes, I've actually read stories where people were killed. In fact, the story what Ryan was just speaking about with the priest that inspired the exorcist, he was actually supposedly killed by the spirit that was possessing the boy.
The demon. And the Dybbuk box.
The Dybbuk box. I mean, we did a show on. I think we did 2 different shows on Zozo, and at least one of them had it where like one of the girls died, or like the parents even died as well. I've read quite a few stories where people have died.
And then you have to say directly or indirectly, because we've covered stories where people have been manipulated by spirits.
Yeah.
To kill people.
I will say this, from doing this show, someone may or may not have died. That Ryan and I don't know the person. I'm not even going to get into the specifics. I can't. But
it's too weird.
It's too weird. But yeah, someone that we don't know, because somebody who watched the show wanted to do a ritual. That's all I can really say about that. And like we totally, blew it off. It's like, yeah,
as nothing, and then something really weird showed up at my fucking doorstep. I don't even know where the fuck that is.
But yeah,
no, I don't have it in here.
That's something that we'll just say that we don't take anything lightly anymore. I mean, we
don't endorse ritual sacrifice.
We don't. So, so it's yeah. I'm gonna leave that there. But we got other submissions here. Do you want me to cover another submission?
Sure.
All right. So this one is another one that came in recently. And where was the email? This came from Alexia. Alexia or Lex. Okay. So she says, "Oh, we can't tell this one, Eric. I'd love to, but this one is, unfortunately, just from us doing the show, sometimes we're a little bit at risk. It's like something we never really thought that would be a thing, but yeah, we've totally had some shit happen from doing this show. But anyway, this story comes from Alexia. It's a recent one. And she says, "Hey guys, my name is Alexia, or Lex, whichever you prefer to use. Myself and my boyfriend, Juggalo." I recognize that name, so Juggalo is, we've seen him on our live shows.
Juggalo J, was it?
Yep. From YouTube or regular listeners to the show. And by the way, can I just point this out? I think it's so fantastic that we have so many people that listen and are couples. It's a couple thing for them, right? Like, that's one of their things that they do. Just like me and my wife will watch a horror movie. These guys tune in and watch Effed Up Stories as a couple. That is cool. Because there's quite a few of them, Ryan. We must get them all kinky. Get the.
Well, we all know it's you and those Harry Potter glasses getting everybody going.
All right, that's enough out of you, Gimli. All right. So myself and my boyfriend Juggalo, the regulars to the show, we just had a creepy encounter just 10 minutes ago. Okay, so this is fresh. Happened 10 minutes before she sent this. We live in the U.S. in Kentucky. Our place is located in a very wooded area. Truth is, I never believed in the strange. I am a full-blooded Native American, as my boyfriend is half Native American, and is why I believe that this happened. I'm pretty shaken up, so I apologize for any misspelling. I'll start my story now. We were driving down a country road forest off both sides. I guess they were surrounded by forest on the country road. It's a 2-lane road, but it's hard to fit a car on each side, so you have to pull over if meeting a car. I know what that's like. So we were driving with the windows down, as we usually do. We've traveled this road 3 years, never had an issue until tonight. I call it Hell Night. It reminds you, Ryan. Anyway?
Some kind of hell worm.
Anyway, we've traveled.
I'm sorry if the dog is making an absolute racket, but he was scratching at the door. I'd let him in.
Hey, I understand. I have a cat like that.
I was going to say I have a son like that. Always scratching at the door, chewing on bottles.
He eats Kermit the Frog. I got a picture of him eating his eye. Anyway. So they're driving down this road, as they usually do. Traveled for 3 years, never had an issue until this night, which she calls Hell Night. So we meet a car and have to pull off to the side. And the gentleman in the other car starts honking his horn and flashing his lights. Which around here means drive with caution. We continue sitting there, and the guy keeps doing this. So my boyfriend says, "It's okay, babe. This guy is up to something, so I'm about to go see what his problem is." Just imagine a 7'3", 299-pound guy climbing out. So my boyfriend approaches the man's car. They're talking. She can't make out what's being said, but I can hear their voices. Fuck, here I am doing that perspective switch again. Anyway, after about 12 minutes, my boyfriend returns. I, of course, ask what the hell's going on, and he's got a panicked look on his face. He looks at me and says, "We can't go that way." The guy said a massive dog tried to attack his car. So we decided to stay in town overnight. We began backing up, and that's when all hell broke loose. We hear the guy's horn again, and he's climbing out with a gun. He's screaming, "Get the fuck out of here and go." He's coming right behind us, and he's got his gun raised. So I, against my gut feeling, say, I don't look. Or he's saying don't look. I decided to do it anyway. And what I saw made my blood run cold. Me and Juggalo saw 6 upright dogs walking toward us. That's pretty fucked up. The guy reaches in and smacks my boyfriend and yells, "Dude, snap out of it. Get her out of here now." Just as he said that, my boyfriend came to and floored it. Just then, as one of them lunged for the car and the guy opens fire. We made it home finally, and I hope the guy is okay. I truly believe if he hadn't have been there, we would be dead. And that's the end of the story, but if we find
Jesus fucking Christ.
Right? I mean, it's a short story, but wow. That one is...
indeed.
So we're tied with 6...
So, this
Dogmen.
is a phenomenon, right? Like, the whole Dogman thing. And I think it's interesting how it's evolved from Werewolf to Dogman. But the whole Dogman thing has popped back up into the limelight mostly through Linda Moulton Howe. What was that Dogman thing? Remember that video I sent you way back when?
Dogman video you sent me way back when?
Oh fuck! What was it? Oh, my brother actually. Evan Sharp, he pops up in the chat every now and then.
Says, "What's up, fuckers?"
Yeah. And it's not fuckers, it's effers.
Okay, that's cool.
Right? That's what it's supposed to be. Jesus, my dog is like a wrecking ball moving through here. Oh fuck, I can't remember the name of that video. Somebody in chat, please remember the name of that video. There's an old video like from the 80s or 70s or some shit where somebody gets attacked by a huge dogman.
Do you know what came to my mind as the guy that's out there with the gun? I thought of that fucking guy from Half-Life 2, in the church place. He's running around with the shotgun.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We don't go to Ravenholm.
We don't go to Ravenholm. That's right. By the way, not to go off topic, can you just mention something that you showed me earlier before I forget?
Sure.
Remember you sent me a text and you said...
Oh my God. Okay. So, man, I wish we could play this video on here. Is it monetized? Can we?
It's monetized. Fuck. We can't play the video. I don't even watch the video yet. I just know what it's about because of...
Oh my God. So, okay, there's a video, and if we can... Will, do you have like a wrench?
A wrench?
Button somewhere?
What the hell does that mean? A wrench button?
Is there a button that looks like a wrench somewhere on your YouTube?
I don't know. I got a big screen.
Oh yeah, sure.
I got a lot of windows open here.
Sure. So, anyways, apparently, if you have the wrench, that you're capable of posting the links. So you could potentially post up that link. Anyway, there's a guy claiming that a 12-foot tall Bigfoot jumped down off of the roof of his house and was standing there staring at him, masturbating with this massive hard-on. And then his dog jumped out and scared the Bigfoot away, but not before the Bigfoot ejaculated all over his yard. And this guy was, quote-unquote, terrified. He was going to get cornholed by a Bigfoot and bent over his fucking barbecue, and attributes his dog to saving his anal virginity.
Well, and the reason why Ryan sent me this, because it's not like he sends me like fucking Bigfoot porn all the time or anything. I mean,
not all the time,
on special occasions.
Yeah. Mostly Christmas and his birthday.
And my birthday. But which we always give a weird look. It's like, anyway. But the thing is, it's this running joke, right? Like about fucking Bigfoot raping somebody. Like somehow like it got brought up in an episode somewhere along the way. And like it became this running joke. So much so that we got a submission. Was it like
No, my brother. Oh, yes, we did. We got a submission from somebody
right? We
who wrote it jokingly.
who wrote a joke like it was it got around enough that a
It
joke
was satire.
submission about somebody getting raped by Bigfoot, and then Ryan sends me this thing. It's like, oh my god, you joked about this thing, and now it's like taking a life of its own. It's like all of a sudden there's like all these people claiming to be like raped by Bigfoot or like sexually harassed.
I have to give props to my brother Evan Sharp, who sent me the link today of the guy who reportedly was almost raped by a very horny Bigfoot.
Russell, right? Russell, I think the Lickpea. Yeah. By the way, Evan, what were you looking at to find that? It's like, well, I was looking at my regular Bigfoot porn. And,
I was looking at my regular big hairy man porn and just rolled up upon a Bigfoot one.
Yeah. Well, it happens. Right? I don't know what you're talking about. It's a normal thing to have happen to a guy. But, oh, fuck, can you imagine Bigfoot herpes? Blech.
Oh, my God.
Pretty nasty.
So that was just something that had to come up tonight because, it was...
We almost feel like, us joking about it made it a reality for some people. It's like enough people thought about it that it manifested a Bigfoot that is sexually harassing people.
Oh my
and
Jesus!
Who couldn't be proud of that, right? As long as he stays out of my neck of the woods, I'm fine with it, right? But we'll see what happens. So I still got.
We're at the part of the stream where if you're having any giantopithecus jismus. We're at the part of the stream where if you have any particular questions or want us to clarify anything or go into any topics that we either touched upon and didn't go deep enough into, or you want us to really touch upon, do so now.
You said touch a lot in there.
The Bigfoot story made me.
That's what I was thinking, right?
Very, very tactile.
It's like, if you want to touch this and you want to touch on that, and
what was that story that we touched upon earlier?
A story that we touched upon.
The submission that you just did.
The submission I just did.
Yeah, which submission?
Oh, the Dogman thing. The Dogman, the walking Dogman. The gang of Dogmen.
Yes. The gang of fucking Dogmen. Now, Linda Moulton Howe, for me personally, brought the whole Dogman thing to the forefront. So first there was this video of a guy apparently being attacked by a Dogman. And then there was an additional video of the crime scene where there were police looking at the body of this victim. Now, the background of the story is that an individual lived in that particular area, and their mother quickly moved them away, and then later they found a trunk that belonged to this uncle that lived with them at the time. Now, this uncle turned out to be a photographer of sorts, and at the time, in this little town, the police force didn't have a official, photographer on the payroll. So they hired this local guy who was known as a photographer to do some photos of this crime scene. So he had come in contact with a copy of the film that was found at the scene, made a copy of it, kept it, along with his own crime scene footage. So this was my first exposure to like real Dogman thing. Then there was a photograph that I don't know if Linda Moulton Howe backed this one, but there was a photograph of this creature that was photographed by the babysitter who was looking after some kids, and heard a ruckus outside, went outside, snapped a photo of what supposedly is a massive Dogman in front of a barn. Now, in addition to that, later we got some tales of two different families being terrorized by packs of Dogmen. And I do believe it's all in the same, cluster of states in the U.S. Now, fuck, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the Michigan Dogman.
That's right. That's right.
That's what it was, the Michigan Dogman. God damn it, it finally fucking clicked. We've been talking about it for like fucking 20 minutes. Anyway, I believe that's the original video, the Michigan Dogman. So you can start your research there, but I really did not believe that this was the thing. I always wanted to believe in werewolves, but the Michigan Dogman and then the subsequent photographs and stories that I came in contact with from them really captivated my attention. And one of these stories came from, was that a haunting?
Maybe. Yeah. Oh, was that the show I was talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
The Beast of Bray Road. Fuck yeah. That's the one.
Is that the one?
That's the first one. That was the beginning. The Beast of Bray Road.
Is that the one where the guy, like, he worked at like
the
an
guy
auto...
films himself being attacked by the Beast of Bray Road.
Okay, I'm thinking of
it's like it's in the winter. They're on like a skidoo trip, and then there's he's filming this creature stalking through the woods, and then charges him down.
Okay.
The Beast of Bray Road. Fuck yeah! Thank you so much, Radioactive Karaoke.
Only on the internet would that sound.
Only on the internet would I think Radioactive Karaoke. That really started me on a quest of the whole Dogman thing. And like I said, ever since I was a child, I was super drawn to the whole werewolf thing. But I'd never, in all my years, come across any legitimate report of a werewolf other than that, old German story of some dude who ate a bunch of babies and said he turned into a wolf when he did it.
One of my favorite ones was on that show, too. I think it was a haunting. Remember the one where like this family, like this husband and wife, they keep seeing this guy or something like that in the woods. Like they're in this kind of isolated spot surrounded by woods. The footprints, the jumping on the roof, and all this shit. Mostly, it's the wife that's terrorized, right?
Because they were seeing somebody on the property, they were seeing footprints on the property,
right? And
somebody seeing like this figure leap off of the roof.
Paranormal Witness, that's the one.
Paranormal Witness, fuck yeah,
Mary. So that's
so awesome that there's people here that pay attention and know stuff.
For sure, because that's the show that came to me about doing one of our shows. Anyway, that episode. Remember, they end up finding this guy, like, and he works at an automotive.
They track the guy who lives there and his brother follow the tracks back to a cabin. Okay, and they find the cabin and they get all freaked out and they fuck off. And they end up like out on like the main road of or the main street of this little town, right? And somebody stops because I think it's their father sees them. They're like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" And because they're walking down the street with guns. And they said, "Oh well, we were hunting, got lost, and walked out." And then they started talking about the experience they had because the two brothers had actually gone to confront where they thought that this person's cabin.
I think you skipped ahead though.
I think I did.
Yeah,
because they found the cabin, and then they learned that some local person who worked in the town lived in it. Right.
Well, no. What it was they tracked the guy to this automotive, like he was a mechanic, right? And so that's what it was. They learned that the guy who that's what it was. They walked into town. Their dad picked them up. They told him about the cabin, and he's like, "Sure, that's fucking, Johnny Mnemonic,
down the street who works at the tire store. So they went back to their house and grabbed an old shitty tire and brought it to the tire store
To
to
get his name.
get the name of the guy. And they spot him and they see this fucking wicked gleam in his eye, right?
Oh, well, when they got to his house, like, he ended up dying, and they got to go in his house. And
Well,
he had
yeah,
a...
because they go to the property later on, and police and everything are there because the guy had died, and the cop is kind of like a friend of theirs from when they were younger, and he's all freaked out, and he's like, "Boys, like you gotta fucking see this."
That's
And he
right.
takes them inside, and there's a room on the inside that's all like covered in steel plate.
And like handcuffs and shit like that. I guess for himself when he turns into a werewolf at night. That was
And
like,
it was all like the big thing was that it was all covered in fucking scratches,
yeah,
right?
that was one of my favorite fucking episodes. If there was ever an episode or a story that like really pointed to real life werewolf, that was fucking it right there. You
Right.
know.
And so like for me, that was one of two werewolf stories that I heard. The other one was, a family where the father had hurt his back and they had moved out into the country because he couldn't work. And then they started seeing these things on their property, and the son wouldn't let, like the mother wouldn't let the father take the guns into the house. So he had to store them in the barn.
Right.
And then this weird shit started happening, and the dad made like a beeline out to the barn to get the guns, and then he couldn't get them. But these things, the weird one was that they couldn't get into the light, right?
Right.
So he was
I
going through
remember.
like a series of fucking turning on lights and trying to get to his truck, get his family out of there,
Man,
right?
that's a good show, hey?
It's fantastic. But I just, the only reason why, we're going on about this, or why I'm going on about it anyway, is because for me, it was like bang, bang, bang. I came across the fucking Linda Moulton Howe talking about the Beast of Bray Road, going back and looking at the video. Um, then moving on to the Michigan Dogman and reports again from Linda Moulton Howe about the Michigan Dogman, and then going on, and I saw these two programs shortly after, and I started really latching onto me. Holy shit! Um, Maybe this is something that's actually happening.
Yeah, well, one of the questions that was asked, actually by Radioactive Karaoke, I feel silly saying that. Anyway, he said, "How come uh, we never really heard of Dogman stories up until maybe 10 years ago?" He's read all kinds of supernatural and crypto books all of his life, and yet no Dogman till like 10 years ago. And I don't maybe I know there's stories, like I have stories submitted to me on our site that have actually taken place longer ago than that. But if I really think about it, like how like the public is really, I mean they're fickle with what they'll accept as paranormal, as believable, I guess, right? And
The topics that are allowed to make it into TV shows and books are rather selective, depending on what decade you're in.
right, imagine if you were publishing a book on the paranormal, and you gotta go and impress a publisher, someone who's gonna like pay money to publish it and distribute it and stuff like that.
And
Like,
and let's start in the 1950s,
right now,
right?
if you go with
Nobody's interested in fucking Dogman stories.
Dogman sounds like, even now, I mean, I read everything, but like even now, if you didn't know any better, that sounds out to lunch. In fact, even in the world of paranormal, that is niche, right? So if you were going to put money,
Very
like,
much so.
if you're a publisher and you're going to put money behind something, I don't think.
Whether it's a TV show or a book.
Well, even with the internet, though, I mean, the internet hasn't
Well,
been
yeah,
big
but
for
now
that
we're
long.
going back. We're talking 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Now, finally, in the 90s, the internet existed, right? But like people talk about the paranormal, like it's this regular thing because from ghosts go way back to the early 18 and 1900s and further back. And then we get into weirder and weirder stuff. Um,
And searching.
simply, I think because it's like the group consciousness is able to grab. Okay, we got a handle on ghosts now. We can move on to Bigfoot. We can move on to Loch Ness. We can move on. Okay, another decade has passed. We've digested this as a society, and we can move on to fucking aliens now. And we've digested this 10 years later, and now we can move on to Dogman.
And even if you talk about the internet, if you go search Dogman now, you're gonna find some stuff. You're not gonna find a ton of it. And we've spent the last 17 or 27 years putting that stuff on the internet. But if you go back to the 90s, and the internet wasn't that accessible, and there wasn't a lot of people with it, not only would there not have been as much on there, but I mean, search engines have gotten so much better since then. Trying to find what you're looking for back then versus now is like, night and day different, right? I mean, like Google and Yahoo and Bing and all those, or I think Yahoo and Bing are one and the same now, but they're constantly refining how their search algorithms work, and they've been doing it forever. I mean, do you remember back using stuff like Metacrawler and
Metacrawler,
Net?
Alta Vista, and
Right. I mean, it was all
the old search engines. Search engines now are more advanced artificial intelligence than they are search engines.
for sure. I mean, to give you an example at work, we have a search engine built into the thing where we look up, I guess, customers, right? And because it's made in-house, I guess you could say, it's fucking garbage. If there's like a dot wrong, or like, say if you make an account or something like that, if there's a dot different or a capital where there's not one or whatever, it doesn't find it, right? There's all kinds of different ways that you have to allow for people to type in one thing 10 different ways and for you to find what you're looking for, right? Like there's a lot to it. So like if you look back through time for something that was so niche, something that probably never had a lot there anyway, I mean that's where I think that comes from. So I think that is for covers that question. Now Quizzle asked, the Catholic Church seems to claim possession is on the rise. What do we think about that? Well,
As we enter a more materialistic age where people are more inclined to be less spiritual and more rooted to the material world, then those things, if they truly do exist, would likely be on the rise.
I think, yeah, like when I think about it, and they talk about the end times, and they say, like, I'm not saying we're at the end times or anything like that, but they say as we get there, and the devil is gonna take over the world, kind of thing, and
Or that it was always his to begin with.
yeah, that like the rapture is gonna happen and stuff like that. But I mean, if you look at it like that, and you look at it as a prophecy, to some extent, I think it's true. Like, the very concept of that side, what the evil side is supposed to do on earth is to make us believe that there isn't a God, that there isn't a heaven, so that we don't care. How many atheists and people don't care anymore? Most people, right? And then you have over there, and then you have all these things with like possessions and greed and money. I mean, fuck, man. Like, the world is so narcissistic now that we have a thing on our phone built into them for selfies. They're called selfies. They're about yourself, about me, myself, what I'm doing. How many fucking people have people on their Facebook that post like 20 pictures of themselves every day? It's all about me, 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 me. Money, what I can get. That is it, right? Like, I'm not saying everybody is like that, but it's crazy today compared to, say, maybe 20 years ago. Like, it really is a thing. I mean, it's, I mean, you look at like a lot of rap music, besides like the gangster lifestyle, is it not about the bling bling, about the money, the status, it's that's the world.
Oh, don't even get me started on that, because there's a whole conspiracy behind the music industry organizing fucking 20 years ago and collectively buying crazy amounts of stock in private prisons and then pushing gangster rap for 20 years.
Atheists have different things happen, Quizzle. Like if you take Howard Storm as one example, he went to hell.
He was a devout atheist.
And
he was a professor of art and died in a French hospital.
Yeah, and there's several. Like there's another doctor, I can't remember his name now, but he had a very prominent hellish near death experience where he was on the the medical table dying, and he knew he was dying, and he had one friend that had came to him in life and said he was gonna try to get him to change his ways and to accept Jesus, and anyway he didn't. But when he was dying, and he knew he was dying, and he was slipping in and out the whole night, he said that's the one person he could think of, and he got the doctor to call him right away, and that to get him there, right? And he said like every time he'd black out, he could feel himself like his legs like sinking deeper, like almost as if there was this invisible black hole that he was constantly being sucked into. And like if you go and look at almost, I'm not saying every story, but almost every story. Not Stern radioactive, Howard Storm. If you go and look at a lot of
Father Storm,
yeah, or Father Storm, but if you go and look at a lot of near-death experiences, particularly the ones that go to hell, the first thing you're going to think is that, oh shit, man, like they're always on these like super religious channels, like, oh, it's Jesus is our savior, this, that. Well, there's a reason why they're so one way after that. It's because their experience is so intense, it's so eye-opening, it's so like it's so dramatic that they come back a different person. And there's
well, that's not to say they're not interpreting it in a very fucking two-dimensional way.
That could be
right, because somebody who was raised in the Hindu faith and has never experienced anything but the Hindu faith.
I have read
had a similar experience, would undoubtedly not include Jesus or Yahweh or Muhammad.
Actually,
right?
I've read countless stories of people of different religions who have had a hellish near-death experience and came back and changed to Christian. Honest to fuck, this is one of the things that I read a lot of.
You know what? I've seen that stuff too. Right? But like right now on the face of this whole planet, there's 5,000 different deities being currently worshipped. I have a real tough time thinking that all of a sudden, finally, 2,000 years ago, one religion came along and nailed it.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though. I think, like, you look to Christianity and you think that...
I don't.
No, I know you don't. I know that. But if you look to Christianity, I think there's nuggets of truth, and there's, and I think that's true for probably a lot of different religions.
I'll tell you something now. I don't know if I've ever said this on any of our podcasts or streams, but I had a friend of mine that I used to call the shaman, right? It was just this little personal nickname I had for the guy because, he had done a lot of psychedelics in his youth, and then, in his 30s had gotten really into spiritualism and different things. And at one point, he had the opportunity of there was a Amazonian shaman that came to the city, and he went on an ayahuasca journey. And he took ayahuasca, which is a certain form of dimethyltryptamine. And he was shown this whole fabric where he's seen like the beginning of all religions to the end of all religions, and was shown how they all are just fragments of a greater puzzle. And that in order to understand true spirituality, one has to understand all religions, because like each religion has like a single fragment of truth that they cling on to.
See, I can get that. That's something I can get behind, right? Like,
Yeah, I agree with you there.
right, and I think that's more along the lines of how it works. But I do think there are some universal, there are some mostly universal things that are true, you know. And I don't even think we need to be told. I think we know, right? Like,
Do as thou wilt, least thee hurt another.
I think that there's things that we know we shouldn't do, like big things like murder and
Murder and rape and stealing and
right.
harming others. Yeah.
And I do, like, I'm just gonna say this, right? Like, this is one of my biggest, my most sought after topics. I don't know why, but like that's my thing. Like I guess because I know I'm gonna die at some point and I'm gonna have to, see what happens. So looking to the spiritual realm and people's near-death experiences and picking them apart and trying to glean what I can is something that I've been doing forever. And the one thing that I will say is that, and this is just like over time, right? But like I was a lot like a lot of people at one point where like it's like there's no such thing as hell like this. There's no way it's fire and brimstone. There's no way it's, and like I've come to the conclusion after so many different stories, so many, that there really is a place that is like that. And some of the things that people see and experience is so fucking terrifying that there's no way I'd risk it, I guess. Like there's.
But now, you know yourself that there's so many stories of people who've never done anything wrong, really.
Oh yeah,
to the same places.
But that's what we like. Now they could lie to us. That's the thing, right? They could say, well, nobody really wants to air their dirty laundry. But one thing I remember from my pop, right? And like, I mean, fuck, man, he told me this when I was like 8, okay? Like, he died when I was really young. And I still remember this, but he had triple bypass surgery. He had a lot of heart problems. And so this is way back.
Show me what you've got. Sorry, chat.
This is what they did long ago. They used, they'd stop your heart, and like it was more barbaric. They'd have to crack your ribs and all this stuff. So like he was dead on the operating table for a time, and he said he floated up to the yes, Mr. Fries will protect me. He said he floated up to the ceiling. And he turned around or turned over, and you could see the doctors operating on him. And he said it was the happiest he ever felt. The overwhelming feeling that he had, I guess, of love. And the thing about my pop is like, I mean, I hear this from my mom whenever it comes up. Like, I mean, he grew up he was an alcoholic. A lot of people were back then. And he.
People are now.
What?
A lot of people are now.
A lot of people are now, but especially back then, it was almost like accepted, for the husband to come home after a long day of labor work and just drink all night, and he so he had that go. He was by no means the perfect person, but after that happened, he walked around with his little pocket Bible on him all the time. He always had it on him, and he wasn't afraid to die, because when he did end up he was having heart failure, and he spent some time in the hospital before he died. Now, I visited him and stuff like that. I mean, he was not afraid at all, and that's one thing.
You continue with this, I'll be right back.
That's one thing that I kept with me over all these years. I mean, no matter what I've read and stuff like that, like I knew my pop, right? I knew how my pop was with that. But I mean, there's been, I've heard other stories from people who, people I know who have had like close calls and stuff like that, and it's been similar. Some of the things have been similar. Like when I think of my mother-in-law, one of the things that she said about, and I forgot this detail, I told it a couple weeks ago about how she astrally projected, and she said that when she astrally projected, she heard the buzzing and stuff like that that people hear when they have when they pop out of their body or they have near-death experiences. I forgot to mention that she said that she would feel her body and her bed vibrate before and after as she was coming and leaving. There are so many characteristics that are common to people who have these experiences. But I'm going to tell you, man, there are a lot of people who have these hellish ones as well. And the scary thing about it is that the people who have those, like, they almost all come back and they all say, I was an atheist, or I didn't believe in this, or I didn't think it was important, I didn't think it was that. And then all of a sudden they're like devoutly fucking Christian, right? They're all of a sudden extreme with it.
But is that because they interpreted the experience properly, or because they are an uneducated Philistine and interpreted it in the only way that they've been taught how? Is it possible that other people who've had experiences like that have come away with the opinion that there's more than one hell and more than one heaven, and that there are many layers upon layers of things that simply attributing one narrow band of thought towards what the afterlife is going to be?
Well, I think you're right in that, Ryan. And that's from all the reading and stuff I did. I don't think there is one spot for anybody. I think that there are many different layers, like you said. But I also think that, it's just like anything else. Like you start in the middle, and then over your life you make choices that puts you up or down, right? You might go to a bad place that's not as bad as somebody else, but it's still a bad fucking place. I don't know, like I don't even know where I am with it. The whole thing kind of like, I'm obsessed with it. I don't know exactly where I stand, but it freaks me out because I don't know where I'm going.
Well, you're in a situation where you have been exposed to all these different stories, like so many of us here tonight, right? And Russell, that's right? People filter reality through subjective filters. So what that means is that you view the reality that you experienced through the lens of all your previous experiences.
I just want to point something out to you, Ryan, because you'll get a kick out of it. I don't know if you can see it in the stream. It's in the chat.
David Pleiades is a scam artist.
This has become the David Pleiades like bashing channel.
Yeah, I would just like to say that, you know what, I appreciate the investigative work that David Pleiades has put in on his stuff, and Ryan's filter is in his bathroom. Ryan's filter is in his dog's bathroom because he knows that his dog has to pee quite often because he's a puppy and he drinks ridiculous amounts of water. So from time to time, if the dog is in the room, Ryan has to make sure that he gets out of the room before he pisses on the fucking floor.
Oh, you don't get to hear the, he shit on the bed again.
Oh, God damn it, he shit on the fucking bed again. That hasn't happened in a while. But, so, people who have these near-death experiences, right, they experience them through, I'll just go right out there and say I've done a massive amount of hallucinogenics over the course of my life. And also, long before I'd done any hallucinogenics, I spent a long time meditating and focusing on spiritualism and that kind of shit. And in the course of that, I feel like I've learned certain insights, and what I've taken away from those insights is that when it comes to the afterlife and those things, and I won't get into the specifics of my intimacy with the knowledge I'm about to impart, but when it comes to the afterlife, um, it it offers such a wide spectrum of experience that you look at the planet Earth and you see what all the different environments and organisms and various biomes that it has to offer, right? Um, from there, I think it would be pretty easy to extrapolate that the afterlife is no less complex. That when you leave your mortal coil and you travel on to the great beyond, um, that your experience may be very unique. And if you are one of the few who get to travel back, you only get to remember and understand those experiences through the lens of your previous experiences. Now, for me, my lens of experience is pretty wide. I'm very interested in science and technology and horror and paranormal and the Fortean and all those things. And I've spent a lifetime studying them. So, for some people, those experiences might be very vibrant and very otherworldly in a way that they can't transcribe to the 3D realm. And some people may choose to process that experience through the lens of Christianity or Buddhism or Judaism, or Islam, whatever, right? There's a whole range of religions and belief systems out there.
But would you say though, universally, we kind of know what's right or what's wrong?
Oh, totally.
And making choices,
110%.
and making choices is going to impact where you end up and what place, whether that's good
it's
or
going
bad.
to impact what experience you have beyond here. For sure it will.
And that's what I came from. So, we do a lot of joking and stuff like that, but try not to do anything really bad. Like, nobody's perfect. You don't need to be a religious person. You don't need to be going to church all the time necessarily, but I think we're like hardwired to know that we're not supposed to kill people. We're not supposed to rape people. Like, even as a child, you think back when you're a child and you could probably remember times. Like, I remember hitting my cousin when I was literally like 3, crawling on the floor. Phil? Yeah, Phil. And do you know, because like we would both be over at my nan's, right? And like she'd be looking after us. I actually remember us both crawling on the floor. And I remember hitting him and hiding behind my pop's chair. And I'd always get found, and my nan would take my hand and smack my hand, and don't be hitting, don't hit your cousin and stuff like that. And I'd always do it, and he'd cry. But I knew it was wrong. I don't know why I did it. I just did. Right?
That's why he grew up to be a big fucking weightlifter.
Maybe. So you're welcome. If he's out there listening, you're welcome. Right? I guess it doesn't help that his brother.
If he's out there listening, Phil, I fucking love you, buddy. And we had so many great times in high school.
And do you know his brother? I guess because Phil, like all older brothers, do you pick his younger brother, and like all older brothers, you pick on your younger brother, right? And his younger brother's a fucking giant. I mean, they're a very nice family, all of them, right? But like his young brother,
like we all said, Phil's mom married a dyke.
Well, his brother is like 7 foot tall. I mean, all muscle. Like the dude is just like, he's like Andre the Giant, right? And so I guess that's from Phil picking on him.
Right?
Right?
Okay, now I don't want the stream to ever really go political or religical or anything like this.
Religical.
I just made up a word just for the stream.
Okay.
But now I seen two comments that kind of, popped out to me. And I have to say this. Now, I've had the pleasure of being really good friends with a Muslim man, right? Somebody who is probably the kindest and most humble human being I've ever met in my whole life. Somebody who loves Canada and North America, and the ideals that it stands for, along with science and logic, more so than anyone else I've ever met in my life. Probably the most like-minded individual I've ever met, and was raised in a Muslim household. I really, really, really want to put out there that the average Muslim is no fucking different from the average Christian, which is no different from the average Jew, which is no difference from the average Buddhist. Buddhism really isn't a religion as much as it is a study of somebody's life and how they reacted to certain things and their view on certain things. But, I know there's a lot of hate right now in the world for Muslims. And I get it. I totally get it. 100%. But you got to remember that's a thing that's been sold to you by the mainstream media.
Which is
packaged and fucking sorted in a very specific way to be sold to the, U.S. and Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and all of Europe.
Fake news, right?
Specific package.
Fake news?
Well, I mean, it's fake news in a way that we haven't talked about it before. News is a euphemism for propaganda, right? Don't you dare think for a fucking second that there is a distinction between what is allowed to be shown through your television as fucking actual factual news and government checkmark propaganda, right? You are sold what you are sold through that fucking light box and noise box.
Well, you're surrounded by it. It's not even just TV. It's the internet. It's your paper. It's your
TV,
magazine.
internet, radio, media, culture.
Do you know
is fucking
that's
towards a certain way?
That's why it was such not to get political, but that's why it was such a big deal that Trump won, whether you agree with it or not, because the media was against him.
So fucking sick of the status quo. And the status quo was Hillary Clinton, and people just couldn't fucking stomach it anymore.
There was a mainstream news website that had already had the victory fucking numbers and everything for Hillary, and it didn't happen.
No, it wasn't just a website. It was a whole fucking magazine. It was like fucking McLean's magazine or some fucking shit. And they had printed 60 million copies of fucking Hillary wins, blah, blah, blah.
So the big thing to take away from this, again, it doesn't matter. I'm not siding, well, obviously I wasn't going to go for Hillary anyway, but the point being that this is the first time where mainstream media didn't fucking win, right? They pulled all the stops. They had, the news was filled with it, and they didn't win. People saw through it. That's what's so big about that win, right? So anyway, again, I'm not saying I would want to vote for either one of them. I'm just saying that that is a huge fucking breakthrough that I didn't, I mean, it really says something for the world consciousness at the time and how people are with the internet and stuff like that, right? So that's big, and I think that has a lot of things, a lot of conspiracies going on under the, behind the scenes with that right now.
Jerry Carter. Sorry, dude. Aslam Malayamko. Isn't it Aslam Malayako?
How would you even know?
I thought it was Aslam Malayako.
Oh, I thought it
Well,
was.
I live in a multicultural place, right? So I mean, I've learned other phrases, like the Arab "Hey baby" is Ali Ali bib,
Oh, hang on. Let
but
me order a pizza. Anyway, not to,
this simply comes up for one reason and one reason alone, is that, and this is something that Will and I tend to avoid because of the possible personal implications. But I think that we're in kind of a time and a place right now where things are different, things are weird. I am certainly not bilingual, but I can say, in French, bonjour, comment allez-vous? Or, in Spanish, what is it? Oh, shit, I can't remember. Buenas tardes. Well, now it'll be buenas noches. I've learned a lot of things. I make it a point in my life to learn about different cultures and different peoples and different things, right? And I have a personal philosophy that there's no such thing as a inferior race, just inferior cultures, right? There's old world cultures that believe in things that just aren't true and aren't viable in a modern society. So, like in that vein, like I've gotten so far as to join a group called Asgardia, which is a Russian man who has a dream of a nation that is not associated with any landmass on planet Earth, and is attempting to create the first space nation called Asgardia. I encourage everybody to go and look it up just simply for the individual knowledge of learning what their views are and maybe injecting a little bit of that wisdom into your everyday life. But I think the ultimate result of today's conversation or tonight's conversation is the idea that no one group, no one person, no one faction, no one government, no one anything has the answer for anything.
There's good people
Right.
and bad people. Yada yada. I'm really hungry. I gotta get some food.
Yada yada.
Pe-
I'm
pe-
really hungry for the food.
People are talking about burritos and tacos and.
Yeah, I see that. But now, liquor hunger. Oh, is that a thing?
No, she said liquid hunger, like Mexican food.
Oh, I see. Very good. Buenas noches. Mi casa, su casa. I mean, at the end of the day, when we're talking about the paranormal and we're talking about all the different
taco pizza. My wife makes
fucking
that.
things.
Taco pizza. Well, she makes a pizza, but she does the meat with the taco stuff and puts that on there. Sorry, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Hey, no, that's. I'm sure that was very important for you to get out to the world.
It helped.
I think the one thing to take, for me personally, I'm not going to speak for Will, but the one thing to take from tonight's talk from with me is that there's no one group or one denomination or belief system that
bacon.
has the answers for everything or anything, right? the best thing you can do is learn about as much as you can, about as much of the world as you can, right? One of the things I really started to question from my childhood was why in the fuck were they trying to sell milk? So,
For your bones? Oh,
oh
it does the
Jesus
bones
Christ!
good.
All throughout the fucking 90s,
Oh, I remember it. I remember
every
all the
second
commercials.
commercial was drink fucking milk,
It's good for
right?
your bones, you know.
For your bones, for your teeth, for your dick, for your whatever, right? Now, I mean, let's face it, everybody who's listening to this tonight knows the government don't give a sweet fucking cocksock what you put in your body. They don't give a fuck. They're all there to fill their own goddamn pockets.
Yep.
So why in the fuck was every second commercial drink fucking milk, right?
I bet you there's a
So we
conspiracy somewhere.
there is 110% a conspiracy there. Go and fucking look it up. Go learn about it.
Wait, do you
Go
know?
fucking teach yourself.
Do you
And
know?
you will deprogram yourself from the rest of the shit that the media of this world is trying to fucking sell you.
Wait, do you know something
Watch
I don't
every
about
video.
milk?
What? Go ahead. Shoot.
Do you know something about milk that I don't?
Something about milk that you don't. Okay.
Okay,
Milk.
not a
Milk.
joke. Not a joke though. Like, you know, conspiracy.
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell me.
Well, here's the top thing. Milk is a fluid that is produced by a 4,000-pound quadruped to create another 4,000 quadruped out of a 190-pound quadruped.
Are you saying it
So,
makes us
so a
fat?
little baby cow is born as like 100 pounds or 190 pounds. And the whole idea behind cow's milk is to turn that baby cow into a full-grown cow. There's nothing about fucking milk that is supposed to be for people. Not a goddamn fucking thing. So the fact, and I mean, we even covered this in Christopher O'Brien's Stalking the Herd episode, right? Is that our relationship with cattle and cows is one that goes back fucking thousands of years, and in the modern age is fucking unhealthy, right? You're supposed to be lactose intolerant. You're
Yeah.
supposed to not be able to digest fucking milk and cream and that shit after you're weaned off of your mama's tit, right? The only thing is that in Europe, the babies that couldn't process fucking cow milk fucking died off like shit, left and right.
Do you want
So
to?
for all us white folk, right, those of us who are survived, most of us are lactose tolerant because the intolerants all died off 600 fucking years ago.
You know, I'm not gonna say that meat is good for red meat in particular is good for you, but
Meat is good for you.
I
You're
fucking-
designed. You have both sides teeth. You have fucking cutting teeth and you have grinding teeth.
well, good
Human
because
beings are fucking omnivores.
I was gonna say I fucking love steak. One of my favorite things in the world is a AAA strip loin steak with A1 sauce and onions and mushrooms. I'm fucking hungry. We gotta wrap this up.
Huckleberry, yes, dairy tastes fucking delicious. I'm a huge fan of cheese, but this is cured by bacteria, so is it still milk anymore? No, it's not. It's cheese. Fuck milk. Yeah, sure. I would find it more accessible, Omar, or more acceptable that people en masse drank fucking human titty milk than fucking cow milk. Right? You're drinking titty milk from another animal as opposed to the titty milk from the species that you're actually a part of.
Yeah, but what
Now, the only point I'm trying to make with this is why in the fucking fuck would the government push cow milk so goddamn hard for 20, 30, 40 fucking years? Well, it's because they were putting shit in the milk that they wanted you to fucking drink. Right? The shit that made you dumber, the shit that made you less focused, the shit that made you more sick, the shit that make you whatever, more shit, right? At the end of the day, you think about it. If you were in control of the entire human species, would you give them, and you wanted to remain in control, right? Like, just think of it like you're an asshole. You're in control of the whole human race, and you want the people who live as part of the human race to continue to obey you. Would you give them stuff that makes them smarter, or would you give them stuff that makes them just smart enough to press the buttons and pull the fucking levers that you want them to?
Well, that was the whole
Right.
conspiracy with all the different chemicals that they put in our food too, right? Not just milk, but like fuck. I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, if you look at people today, we're all fucking obese compared to our parents' generation, and you could say, yeah, it's a
Fucking
lifestyle,
years ago.
and you could say, yeah, it's a lifestyle, and life, culture has changed and stuff like. But it's not all that. I mean, there's more to it than that. I know people, who have very physically active jobs and don't eat a lot of takeout and shit like that. They're still like it. I mean, we got chemtrails. We have all kinds of matter of fucking chemicals put in our food.
Not only that, but there are two things. There's, oh fuck, what is it? There's a certain vitamin and a certain plant that are like detrimental to cancer, right? And both of those things have been made illegal in the United States.
Yeah, I think so too, Quizzle. I definitely think that it's something to do with, there's a big kick, especially in the upper echelon of people, we'll say, this whole planned parenting and stuff
Yes,
like
Mary, they did.
that.
Sorry, go ahead.
This whole planned parenting, and there's
Planned Parenthood.
yeah, like there's this whole, well, for one thing, they say that, and I'm not saying
Wait, there's Planned Parenthood, which is a company, and then there's Planned Parenting or Planned something, which is this whole program started by Bill Gates and his wife.
right, and it's got to do with like the selecting basically only people with certain genes and stuff like that can procreate. Yeah. And like there probably is a lot of truth to the fact that we're very overcrowded and shit like that, but the answer is not to fucking dumb everyone down in a way where nobody knows what's going on. If like, who are they to fucking say, well, I'm better than you guys, so let's fucking put shit in your food.
Well, they're the ones in power.
Yeah, but
right?
like
that's the thing, right? Like when you're in power, you feel entitled to power, right? So if you're already in power, whether or not you inherited it, if I was in power, I'd do the same goddamn thing.
You're a monster.
My only problem with the Illuminati, and yours too, you narcissistic fuck. Your only problem with the Illuminati is that they didn't invite you to fucking join.
Yeah, we're not talking about that. What we're saying is, what it should be is that we should be going to different planets. I mean, this has been, they're trying to, but I mean, we should have been at this a long time ago, right? It should.
Oh, Christ, with fucking nuclear-powered propulsion. What was that called? The Orion Project. Go look it up. We would have been there fucking 40 fucking years ago. I mean, Alpha Centauri A, B, and Proxima Centauri is only what? 4.7 light years away?
You said it.
I said it.
I believe you.
Only because you don't know nothing about space.
No, space is not my thing.
We're looking at 10% the speed of light. We're looking at what? 50, 60 fucking years to get to the next star system, right? And we know that there's fucking there's planets there that are possibly inhabitable.
Well, yes. So anyway, the long and short of what I wanted to say is that we should be, instead of like crying about overcrowding this one planet, we should already be on different planets. Because like one bad fucking meteor comes our way and we're done anyway as a species, right?
Yeah. Elon Musk calls it like hard drive backups.
Exactly.
Right? If we had a backup on the moon and a backup on Mars, then if something really fucking nasty happened to planet Earth, then we'd have a fucking backup.
For sure. Now, that being...
Space simply amazing. You guys should do a segment on it.
Hey,
I would be 100% down for it. Will would be a minus 100% down for it.
Yeah, like, see, I love space in my video games and stuff like that, but I don't read up enough on it to, you know. I mean, if we're doing aliens or something like that, fine, but...
Maybe we will do an episode on it, and, you know, I'll just fucking gab on about space, and you'll comment on my John.
Your what?
John, I believe, as they say in the southern states.
Well, we'll you know, maybe we can if we can find a paranormal story in space or something effed up, then I'm all for it. But, you know, it would have to be like effed up to go with the effed
I know
up stories.
all about the hollow moon theory, radioactive karaoke. Don't even get me started. We don't have enough time.
Yeah, don't take me away from my meal. All right. So
it's past 12 o'clock in Newfoundland right now.
It's like 1 o'clock.
So happy birthday, Brittany Pender.
Yes, everybody do the birthday actually in the comments when this goes live. That'd be cool because I can just pop it open and be like, look, everyone wish you a happy birthday. You're welcome.
Well, you can show it to her here because you know it's at the end of the podcast.
All right. So everybody, if you could, happy birthday, Brittany. That would be, you know.
And let me assure you, from the person who introduced William to Brittany, that she is a lovely, lovely human being.
She is. She's fantastic. She's getting old, but...
You might want to skip this part.
Yeah.
Turn the audio off. Happy birthday, Brittany Pender. Happy Brittany birthday, Pender.
There we go. Thank you so much, everybody. You've made a guy happy. Me.
And hit it up in the comments too.
And hit it up in the comments. And
I think we're near wrapping it up here anyway.
We are. I mean, this has been a great show. I always like being able to you know, wander several... I never know what to call the episode when we're done because it's gone so many directions. It's like...
Oh, my God. That must be the hardest job.
It is, because before I could say, okay, well, we did this on Shadow Man. We did this on... And, like, now it's, like, 5 completely unrelated topics. And it's like, what the fuck do I call this? You know? But anyway, I'll figure something out. And we'll be back again next Monday. Actually, next Monday could be special because... I'm going to be off for a week after like this Thursday coming because I took a week of vacation because I'm stressed way out and I figured I could relax a bit, hang out with the wife a bit, spend some time with my son, a lot more than I get to do when I'm working, and of course, Resident Evil 7 comes out. So
oh, geez. I was going to say maybe punt out an extra show that week, but not with Resident Evil 7.
No, not with Resident Evil 7. But we might do a little bit of a different kind of show. Maybe, I don't know. I talked to Ryan earlier. We might think of, what was it you said as a suggestion? Forget what it was now. It was, Conspiracies. Right. Right, so me and Ryan is going to talk a little bit, I guess, to figure out exactly what we want to do. But
yes, Emma, maybe.
I am having an Ebola attack.
Just maybe we might do a longer show.
Yeah, maybe, because I won't have the same, I got to get up.
Time restrictions.
Yeah, I got to get up a little bit earlier tomorrow, too, because I got to drop my wife off at my mom's so that she don't have to take the car to pick me up at dinner time. Anyway, I digress. Thank you, everybody, for popping on and hanging out with us. And, I don't know, Ryan,
Andrew, you know what, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our various submissions that we got to relate and converse upon. As well as joining us in our musings. This whole show started way, way back when, before 2012, from 2 to 4 hour telephone conversations that Will and I would have together.
Yep.
It was his suggestion back then that we take those 2 to 4 hour telephone conversations and turn into a podcast. And here we are from 2012 to 2017, and we have a family. We have a family of people who join us weekly, um, to enjoy the programming and to talk about the various stories. I mean, we really, really do our best to comment on the chat. It's really difficult to, um, go over the stories that we're talking about, remain on the streams of consciousness that we stay on, and pay attention to the chat. It is difficult. There's a lot of factors involved, alcohol being one of them. Um, but both of us really, really, really enjoy the fact that there's other beautiful bastards out there like ourselves who are interested in these kinds of things, and we really appreciate you joining us week after week, to go over these different things.
And to send us your
Like
stories.
another word about fucking glitter beards and they're getting banned, buddy.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, shit.
Oh, that's good.
So all I want to say is thank you all so much for joining us here tonight, and I so very much look forward to everybody joining us in next week. Anything else you want to add there, Will?
I'm just gonna say everything Ryan said +2.
Plus two. So
Right.
basically, what he's saying is Ryan nailed it. So
Can't,
good night.
ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But no, but seriously, we have honestly, there has been so much work that we didn't want to do that we did because we love you guys. So like, we're glad that you stuck with us and you all dig it. I mean, there's been hovering around 58 and 60 people all day, and sometimes people are like, well, why don't you do like more widely applicable stuff to get more people watching and stuff like that. But that's never really been our goal. I mean, we really like people who are like-minded. It's not about I mean, we like the numbers simply because we get more stories, but we're good where we are. Like, there's no need. Like, I'm happy with this. It's a nice crowd. It's not too big, not too small. We get to share your stories. We get to know you guys. I'm starting to be able to put the names, the real names to the alias
The internet
names.
handles.
I recognize the internet aliases and the profile pictures. It's really cool, right? Like, I mean, some of you guys have been with us forever. And it's neat. Like, I mean, I can't believe we're still doing the show, like, all these years later. And it's been a fantastic way for Ryan and I to keep in touch, with Ryan being on the opposite side of Canada. Because we were really, like, we were the best of friends. I mean, we still are, but, we were before he moved away, and all of a sudden.
We lived in each other's backyards.
We
and
did.
Then I moved a million miles away.
So now we're on the opposite side of Canada, but yet because of the show, we've been able to constantly keep in touch and come back and still hang out kind of online and do the show with you guys, which is really,
And collaborate, because that was the thing that you and I always did the best.
Oh, yeah, that was always great. Like, I mean, before the show, we always had, like, I don't know how many times I'd get Ryan's like, oh, I'm doing some kind of song. Can you help me find weird stuff to make sounds out of? He'd be like walking down the stairs with like an ironing board, or and he'll like just the weirdest of things. And we had fun all the time. Like, that was the thing with Ryan and I. We could on a whim, on a boring fucking day, a boring rainy day, we could find something to do and go out and have a blast doing it. We could come back with a story. I can't do that with anybody else like that, right? Everybody else, you kind of got to have like common, I don't know, like a movie genre you like to watch together or video games you like to play. You can't just make your own fun in the same way. So, in one way it's a bit sad because, we're on opposite sides of Canada, but, through this show we've been able to keep it going. And it's been...
Maintain a friendship that is closer than most people have when they live next door to one another.
Right.
And for Omar Kenora, how's the cannabis seeds in Canada? If you don't know, you don't know shit about fucking cannabis, buddy. British Columbia, Canada produces the best cannabis on the face of this planet, aside from the Kush Mountains in Afghanistan.
This man knows what he's talking about. But yeah, guys, thanks for sticking it out with us, and we love you guys. I mean, we wouldn't do this. We're not making any money anymore. We wouldn't do this otherwise. So yeah, the
whole live stream format has been a way for us to continue doing this in a way that wasn't a tremendous amount of work, and allowed us to continue doing what we love to do along with one another. This individual one-on-one bromance thing that somebody, Emma, threw up in there, and still have contact with all you beautiful bastards out there.
And one day...
all the effers.
And one day, I don't know how many people will be into this, but me and Ryan talked about this before. Anybody who would be interested in hearing us talk on a paranormal topic, but instead of watching us on TV playing a video game, maybe someday we'll do that because we did think about doing a
gaming channel.
A gaming channel, but where time is a thing. I don't know. Maybe one of these days because we're big video gamers too. Anyway,
so if there's any of you interested in that, go ahead, email us, Ryan at effedupstories.com, Will at effedupstories.com. Two birds with one stone. I believe what you mean to say is two birds stone one joint, Alfonso. Aside from that, I'm Ryan Sharp. I've given all I can give for tonight's podcast. Thank you so very much for joining us, everyone. Have a great night. William?
I just want to comment on Hunter's thing. Hunter, you're the only one that ever asked for an autograph. So you're the only one that has one, but I so much appreciate it. But thanks to everybody. It's been great, and we'll catch you again next week. Have a good one, guys.
Good night, my friends.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
All right. Good night, everybody.